Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Carbon Studio. I'm Gil Frost, and I'm here with ZP and Hex, and we're ready for more Overwatch action here at the Overwatch Carbon series. Gentlemen, we're almost done with the first week. How are we feeling in Denver? Have we acclimated yet?
My hands aren't swelling. I've been catching my breath, so yeah, I'm pretty acclimated.
I walked a few blocks today, did not run out of breath, so on some level I am getting used to this altitude, which is more than I can say for day one up here.
There we go. See, already improvements, and we've actually already seen a lot from the teams as well, and we've seen how they've improved since the last time we saw them before this event, and I'm excited to see how a couple of these teams today react. But let's take a look, if we can, at the schedule. Let's take a look at the recent games that we've had played. So day one, we had Immortals versus Complexity in the opener. Immortals took it in a strong faction, the only 3-0 that we have so far. Complexity playing around with a new roster, of course. Game number two, Renegades was able to pick up a victory against Luminosity. Luminosity had some spurts of strength. They were able to pick up one map, but honestly, Renegades just overpowered them with aggressive play. And then last night, if you missed it, we did have Hammers Esports face off against Team Liquid. And while Liquid was able to pick up one map, Hammers played another, actually, a pretty aggressive play style as well in their victory. A lot of really flashy Genji plays from Jake in that one. And then the final match of yesterday, Luminosity actually reverse swept Immortals, the reigning champion, the favorite coming in to this event. So looking at all those, how are we feeling about the games?
So for Luminosity, I feel like they've established themselves now as a wild card here in the tournament. They weren't able to get through Renegades, which many people see as a little bit weaker than Immortals right now, but they were able to really bring themselves out of a rut versus Immortals, where they went down 2 games and then came back for the 3-0 reverse sweep. So for LG, you don't quite know what you're going to get with them, and that's evident in their gameplay, where you still see them swapping off heroes a lot, more so than other teams, almost unsure of themselves. But what's clear about Luminosity is that there's a lot of potential with them right now.
I think last night's set was an expansion of their style that we see just in map play too, where sometimes they're just meandering around, or are they going to fight, and then bam, they turn it on, and they hit that switch, and they go in, and they dive, they get kills, and that's how they win maps. That's how they won the set last night.
And one thing I think is worth noting too is that even though they didn't win Temple of Anubis, they were very close to doing much better on that map. They had some very close team fights that really could have gone the other way. So I would argue that their turnaround last night actually started in map number 2 as opposed to map number 3.
They won about 6 team fights on last and just were unable to finish it out. It's the nature of assault maps. You have to win them as cleanly as possible, but give Immortals some credit there. There was some really nice
it was
stall
a great
at the
hold.
end.
Yeah, but the momentum maybe started shifting there. Well, we're actually going to see a few of these teams taking a little break today. We are going to be watching today Renegades, that is the Detroit Renegades, facing off against Team Liquid in match number 1. Hammers Esports will be facing off against Complexity in game number 2. Let's take a look, though, a little more detail at this first matchup. I want to take a look, first of all, at the roster of Renegades. They were looking very strong across the board. They brought 4 DPS at moments. But let's take a look at this right here. Jesus, Mangachu, Juvenile, Saipei, Sherlocki, and Jur. Initial reaction, ZP, to what Renegades has.
Well, I remember in our prep coming into this tournament, we looked at the roster and we went, wait, there's Saipei, who's known for playing a very good Genji. There's Mangachu, who plays a bit of everything, but very well known for his Pharah. And Jesus, back when he was with Kingdom, before they became the Renegades, was known for playing very good McCree, very good Tracer. And we thought to ourselves, wait, this team can play very good triple DPS setups, and lo and behold, we've seen them leverage that to very great success here thus far.
Even Juvenile got in on the DPS action the other day playing a Tracer, so that was interesting as well. I think it is part of an overarching trend that we're going to see when teams do have roster openings. The first thing you should see is, can we just get another DPS in here who could maybe flex onto a tank if we need to? I think perhaps gone, maybe not yet, but perhaps gone are the days where we need a tank, but let's just go get a tank. I think right now when people are looking to fill out their roster, they say, we need a player, let's get the best player, and then we'll figure it out later.
Well, and I think one thing, the word that comes to mind when you look at Renegades' performances so far, and even just their hero selection, is diversity. Maybe flexibility would be another term. And if that is something that you can attribute to Renegades, looking across onto Team Liquid, the term one trick comes into mind. Now, that's maybe painting a negative picture, but they really focused in on more specific strategies and try to make those work, specifically the Sombra. Let's see if we can take a look at the Team Liquid roster now and maybe compare and contrast a little bit. So this, of course, is their roster. You see a lot of familiar faces. The new one on their roster is Louis, and he is definitely someone we'll want to take an look at today because we don't have it as one of his heroes on that list, but he played Sombra all day yesterday.
And the cool thing about Team Liquid here, and I will note this, is that they did play a lot of Sombra, and people will go, well, that's a very one-trick setup in terms of how they ran it, and in truth it was, but don't forget, they've made some very key roster changes here. Rafa, no longer on tank, going to support, so he has to call initiation rather than being the initiation, and that's how Team Liquid is running that right now. And now you're mixing in different players like Louis. When you are swapping in new players, and you're trying to figure out who's going to be the best fit for your team, you don't have as much time to make your playbook deep. So for Team Liquid, maybe that was the best they could run there because they haven't had as much time to really practice with Louis.
One of the biggest question marks for me on this Liquid team, going back to previous tournaments where I saw different players step up as well, players who had question marks step up, has always been ID. I have a great amount of respect for him, as he should as a gaming history as a Quake champion. And he showed us yesterday that he has a very wide pool. He played a lot of things, and he played them all pretty well, but he needs to play them all very well. I think he could be that wild card for them if his play just takes that next step, because his hero pool that we've seen is really diverse. And I mentioned it yesterday after watching Liquid for months and months, having a lot of eyes on their tape. I think it was one of the best sets he's played yesterday, despite the results not being there, and I think a lot of that was because of the new rosters, but ID did take a step forward in my eyes, at least briefly yesterday. Can he do it again today? He's going to have to.
And on that note, too, for Team Liquid, we also thought it was a step forward for AZK, who definitely, if you look way back at Team Liquid history, he had moments where he was the hero for Team Liquid. And then he had some months where he very much disappeared and went off, and Team Liquid, when they did well, they were winning it more off their tank play with Rafa and Mezar having good games. But for AZK, whether it's new shot calling that they're engaging or just AZK refining aspects, can have bigger games. That's going to bode very well for Team Liquid moving forward.
I really like seeing AZK on Tracer. We saw a lot of Soldier out of him over the last 3 months or so. And I think that maybe with feeling more confidence in ID's been playing that Soldier, getting your AZK onto somebody who can flank around and feel like maybe you're impacting it in a little bit, the fights in a little bit of a different way, we've definitely seen results. In that. Now, what we're waiting for are results on the scoreboard because they're still looking a little shaky with the newness of the roster. But you know what? Let's try to get closer to in-game. I think we're preparing the teams. And we mentioned a few people to watch, but we have selected very specific players to watch coming into this matchup. And let's take a look at the first one. It is going to be for Renegades Jesus. He has been playing a really strong Tracer. We've also seen him on, just looking at the overlay there. We've also seen him play a pretty prolific Roadhog at times. How does Jesus play into this roster?
One, that's the first time I've seen that graphic, and that's great. Great job, guys. Just to piggyback on the sentiment that the Tracer play has been so impactful, I think in this tournament right now we're seeing you're going to have a Tracer. There's going to be Tracer v. Tracer battles. Of course, Icefeld versus Hype happened yesterday, but Tracers have made huge impact plays, and Jesus on that Tracer took over some sets yesterday.
And that's the explosiveness we know he can have. I would actually argue that in recent times that we've seen him, he hasn't been quite as on point as his earlier Kingdom days, but he looked very good last night when we saw him last. And here's the thing for Jesus, when you take a look at him as a player, he's also a fan favorite. He does quite a bit of streaming. Anytime he's playing, there's a huge just spike in popularity. And more than anything else, he's part of the new wave of Overwatch players. He's not a player that's a veteran for other games. He doesn't have any huge history at TF2, Quake, or anything like that. He's in a class of players like Grim Reality where they have gone into Overwatch, brought themselves up from the bottom, and starting to make a very good name for himself. So that story in and of itself is really cool.
In the world of Overwatch esports being so evolutionary, and by that I mean it's evolving so much and so rapidly, more and more players like these are going to have to step it up because, you know, everyone's going to be improving themselves and everyone's going to have to learn and grow as we all are figuring out what this what we're looking at coming into something like the Overwatch League. Well, let's take a look then at Liquid's player to watch. If we talk about Tracer and her importance in these games, ID plays a really good Soldier, but we also saw ID on that Pharah, and the Pharah Mercy combo has been something that we've seen quite a bit in the last couple of days. But what are your thoughts? I know, Hex, you had already mentioned some things about what you felt about ID's performance. What are your thoughts coming into this one, ZP?
Well, I think ID is a good contrast here to Jesus, where we just talked about how Jesus is this up and coming player. Well, ID is the opposite end. He goes back into Overwatch from Beta 1, a lot of experience in Overwatch. Not just Overwatch, he goes all the way back to Quake, which is how he became friends and really got on a team with the rest of these Team Liquid players and Rafa and Dehang. So this is a player that is no new player to esports. I think for ID, he's had weaknesses over time and getting the execution he's been looking for, but he definitely looked a bit stronger in Liquid's last outing, was getting more done. And now that Farah is back in play, I am excited to see if he can mix that back in and give us a fair performance on the level of, say, someone like Spree, who absolutely went off yesterday.
I'm always fascinated by people who've been off the roster, then come back on the roster, because you have to understand how are they going to respond to that. He was off the roster a few weeks ago for at least a night as they trialed out Enigma there, and you can respond to that by not playing very well or very strong and kind of giving up on it. But it seems, just based on last night's results, that he's maybe rededicated himself to it. So I think, going into the psychology of it, I always find that a fascinating story of, well, they tried to replace me. Now am I just going to kind of sandbag it, or am I going to play even better?
Yeah, and that's definitely the story we've seen from ID. So we'll see how that plays out. We are waiting for the lobby to fill. Waiting on a team that are showing up. We're still, so we're going to pick apart these teams a little bit more. I really want to ask you a question. A new roster addition of Sai-Pei. How has he been contributing? We talked a lot about Jesus. Where does Sai-Pei fit into this roster?
So for Sai-Pei, let's break down Sai-Pei's history real quick. He does come in effectively. He was noticed because he was doing very well on the in-game competitive ladder, got picked up by Sis at 7, which is now defunct, but had a very strong showing back in the NGE tournament. Now, Sis at 7 might be gone, but Sai-Pei's name and legend persists, and that's how he was able to get picked up by this Renegades roster. And what he brings is that he's a dynamic projectile DPS player, but also has a lot of flexibility just based on the fact that he has spent so many hours in the game. And more than anything else, I'd say that when Renegades needs a strong Genji option, Sai-Pei is going to be there and be able to provide that for them.
I think it's always really good to have a Genji specialist or ace on your roster, because even when Genji's not meta, Genji can take over games. He's one of the heroes that you play him like a symphony, and everything's working right, everything's working really well, and it's one of those big game-changing things where you can win a fight with a Genji 3v6, because Dragon Blade can come out and you can get those critical kills too. We've seen it in different regions as well, that you can build entire compositions around simply supporting your Genji. So Sai-Pei, to me, I think of him first and foremost as a Genji. I think some of his other heroes should come up a little more. I still need to see a little more onto it, but he is definitely a Genji specialist, and we've seen teams, Shadowburn comes to mind. You can build a team around a good Genji player.
Well, and even in this event, we actually had Jake and Agilities play amazing, had amazing plays, triple kills, absolutely picking apart the enemy team. And even when they were down a few players to turn the tides in their favor. And while Sai-Pei hasn't, we've seen him play a few times, it hasn't had that same standout performance. And maybe it's partially because they're bringing 4 DPS to the table. Everyone's sharing that a little bit more. One thing that I think really synergizes with that in their playstyle as well is Mangachu on the Pharah. We talked about how they really prefer verticality in their map selection. And when you've got Genji who can potentially, jump around the map a little bit more, pair that with maybe a Pharah and a Tracer, you really have the ability to craft a team fight. So what are your thoughts on Mangachu's contributions in that?
Well, Mangachu, I'd like to just talk about Mangachu, but also the team as a whole, is that for Renegades, we're seeing sort of this idea of organized chaos, where they do run 4 DPS. It's a paradigm shift compared to what teams have been used to over the last few patches of Overwatch, where if you did watch Overwatch during, say, the NGE tournament, you had cases where you'd have 4 tanks, 2 supports, and the engagements were very much up the middle, not a whole lot of subtlety. Maybe you have a flanking Roadhog, but that's it. Now you have to worry about threats in the sky, on the ground, on the left, on the right, and
Widow's in the back.
Right, exactly. With how Renegades is running this right now. And I don't think teams have really adapted yet to how you need to prioritize in your shot calling and react to these situations. So when you have a good Pharah like Mangachu that could go to the sky, you're also opening up great opportunities for Sai-Pei, for Jesus to move in on the flank and get more done there as well.
It is one of the great things about Overwatch that it is played on all those different axes, right? Verticality is such a big part of this. You can see it in map design, you can see it in hero design. So when you have a Pharah that is always in the skies, you're opening up the map to that. But also, I think it is great to run a Genji with a Pharah, because when the maps she excels on are maps with great verticality, but generally, Genji likes verticality too. He likes jumping up rooftops. I've been knocked out of the sky as Pharah more times than I can think than a dashing Genji. It's crazy how good he is at that. But Genji can control all those axes, and Mangachu's Pharah has been a revelation, and I think he's almost the mascot of this team. You talk about versatility. He's played everything.
Yeah. We need to list everything that he's played. We saw Bastion technically on one
Junkrat.
single point. Junkrat. the 0%. And actually now we're still actually only seeing one hero that hasn't been played yet. Well, we saw one Sonic Arrow out of Spawn, but we have not seen Hanzo.
I just gonna say we would be really remiss if we did not mention Mangachu's Torbjorn play, where he had one of the best highlights from day one, where he got play of the game on Hanamura with some very good Torbjorn play, where he actually stayed on Torbjorn, figured I could get back to this point, used that judgment, got in there, got 3 kills that saved the points. So in terms of Torbjorn players, Mangachu is definitely up there.
Well, we actually do know the map now that is being played. And if you haven't seen the highlight video or even just the VODs, go rewatch. There were some really hyped plays coming out. So we have the hype video on Twitter. And then if you're already watching on Twitch or maybe YouTube, go to Twitch. And all the VODs are there from the previous games, because there was some pretty sweet stuff happening. But the first map for today's match is going to be King's Row, and that was selected by Team Liquid. Why is Team Liquid picking this map?
Team Liquid is the home team, and this is, I think, one of the first times this week it's really come into play because Renegades, the only map they lost day one was King's Row. They lost it against Luminosity, and they really struggled. They really struggled to dislodge the Soldier 76. That's when Icefeld had his breakout moment, hang out in the window. Mangachu struggled dealing with them, and considering that Liquid has run a really good 76 in ID, I think it's a perfect pick to start off the set.
I would also highlight Sombra here, where King's Row isn't exactly known for giving teams a whole lot of room to work with. You have tight areas on point A, you have tight areas into the streets, and even on last, there's really good moments to land solid EMPs. So if Liquid is going to come out here and run a Sombra for most of the time, King's Row is a pretty good map to throw it on.
Well, you know what? I am very excited. We're just waiting for side selections. Looks like actually it is going to be Renegades. They get to choose the sides. They're going to be playing defense first. So waiting for, they're going to let First Strike go over to Team Liquid, and then they're going to be able to respond.
Well, it's interesting because their defense against Luminosity actually wasn't too bad. They got, I think, a little bit towards second point. I think they might have stopped a little bit there.
Right before second.
I mean, it's 2 days ago, which in Overwatch means it's a month ago to me already. I've already watched 2 other tournaments, I think. But it was really their offense that struggled. So I think that's an interesting pick. Let's start off at our strength here and then see if they can just, reformulate their offense and do a little better than they did against LG.
Well, the other thing, too, just on more of a theoretical level, you could go back and forth all day on what's better between offense and defense. However, I do think that we have seen a resurgence of defense, particularly this tournament, where teams are not always completing the maps. We are seeing more stops on first and on second. And I got to tell you that it is incredibly demoralizing if you are on your attack and you get stopped on that first defense. So if you have confidence in your defense going into your own attack knowing, hey, guys, we don't have to bring it this far, that's a bit of a psychological boost.
No, it definitely gives you that mental advantage. And any advantage is going to be valuable, and which is why we're even talking about things like home team advantage in this case. And this really might be the biggest one because, honestly, Renegades so far have looked very dominant. So we'll have to see. The one question I have when we're going with Renegades is their tank line. And I mean, they even played 4 DPS, so maybe that's their answer. But what are your thoughts on Juvenile and the tank line that Renegades has?
So going to Juvenile right now, I would say that he's probably playing a little bit too aggressive. I would say when Renegades does fail a push, a lot of the times it'll be, say, Juvenile isn't on the Reinhardt, he's on Winston. He will leap in, and the team won't all be on the same page, and then Juvenile might just die really early. I would say if Renegades does have an Achilles heel right now, I don't think their tank coordination is quite where it needs to be.
Well, you know what? We're going into map right now, so let's take a look at beautiful King's Row. And gentlemen, call all of the action as there is about to be some serious action on your screens.
Well, Hex, we are here on King's Row once again. Our dreams of sunshine in Hollywood dashed before us. Who knows, we'll even see Hollywood later today. It might just be a sunless week 1, but King's Row, definitely a lot to talk about here as Renegades comes out here on this early defense. And are you seeing anything that's surprising you here? Notably, the fact that they will be running the Winston on the defense here once more.
Well, this is what they ran on their defense the other day, too, and it was really interesting because Saipe, as we mentioned, a generally Genji player, was on that Winston, but he got a lot done on that Winston. It was the chase down, too. So what you're generally going to see here with this dive-ish composition is Mangachu is going to play pretty far back. That's where he really hung out. I think he disconnected his keyboard at one point and just hung out in that window, firing rockets for a while. But then the chase is what gets those kills, the chase from Saipe and Jesus, getting people who ate a rocket in the face retreating. That's how they were able to formulate their good defense the other day.
And there does seem to be a trend in defenses where they want to keep the option to engage on an offense before the offense engages on them. Before, a defense would just sit there and make the offense come to them. But now we're seeing this trend where, hey, we do have a Winston, we have a Tracer, and a Pharah. If we see weakness, we can pounce on that and stop the offense before they even get to feel comfortable.
A little bit interesting setup here is they're going to run 2 tanks. Juvenile going to be on the main tank of Reinhardt, but not a ton of support for him. So 2-2-2 coming out, but an interesting 2-2-2 for defense for sure. Generally characters you would see more on offense. We'll see how it works out for him.
Well, the offense, as mentioned, is going to be that 2-2-2, and one to watch here is going to be AZK if he can get early pickoffs. He's being pretty effective on that yesterday. We'll see if he can keep the momentum, but again, we'll get Renegades here. They're not wasting time. Mangachu diving right in over the top with Jesus. ID removed from the game, and this is the aggressiveness of this Renegades defense that we were just talking about. Is Jesus rolling around the Carnage, picks off 2, does get hit by AZK, and Mangachu has to dive in pretty deep on Mezar here, and Liquid could turn this around.
Able to get Mez, but the trades are definitely in the offense's favor. But nice chase there by Saipe, taken out to Hang early on. They are going to try to still get back in. I believe Liquid's idea was to roll around through top. They just got collapsed on before they could do it.
And I'll note, by the way, Louis is on the Tracer, not going with the Sombra, so we might not see quite as much Sombra today, but able to find that kill on the Mangachu. Liquid, through pure attrition and spawn advantage, is now on the point and has pushed Renegades back. Now, Renegades, they still might try to come back in here.
We might see a better game from Louis today. I just did a little scouting on him earlier today, and I guess he had played a lot, has not played in really a tournament setting, so maybe not his best games coming out yesterday, but I think if he can get that Tracer going, it's going to be a big boom to Liquid as they look really strong, taking first in rather short order. Half of a failed fight early on, but taking on the second push is no small accomplishment.
I got to question that defensive set there by Renegades because they didn't commit to going back in. They just threw in 2 people, didn't work, and then they didn't all go in. But if you're going to dive in with the Winston, I feel like you have to go all in with your entire team.
Well, Saipe is done with the Winston now as he does switch off into the Zarya for the Streets phase. Zarya and Street phase go hand in hand. Liquid makes no real changes. AZK over onto the Roadhog for this phase as well, but I do want to keep eyes on Louis and Jesus. As we mentioned, the Tracer battle is going to be pivotal all throughout the tournament, I believe.
No doubt about it. And now the defense is going to take the fight in the middle of the streets. Pulse bomb out early. AZK getting on the Jesus. And Liquid right now, nothing flashy, just slowly grinding it down. ID gonna be shooting Mangachu out of the air. And Renegades, they're still committing. Juvenile had the nano boost, still looking to move in. Lands a charge and just ults some shields. That is not gonna be very effective at all as AZK there with the immediate punish. And Liquid is gonna bring this right to the brim here on second house.
It was a really nice retreat from Liquid too. Both Earth Shatters hit nothing but shield there, so not the greatest start for either Reinhardt player, but a nice retreat. They got nothing out of that nano onto Juvenile as he tried to come in. So Liquid, they played a little tentatively for my liking in the past, but if they can pepper that in of retreating when to retreat and then being aggressive at the right times, that could be great for him. Looking to get the second point.
They've had a great counterpunch game here, Hex, and now here comes Mangachu in over the top. Barrage armed and ready. Justice raining from above, and he picks up a quick double. He falls for it, but the damage has been done. ID just gonna have to sprint on out of there as every member of his team is dead, and Jesus looking to complete that last kill. ID on the run.
A very nice barrage as Pharah. Oftentimes you hit that Q and you just know that you're going to go down, but if you can pick up 3 before that happens, absolutely worth it on the trade. And trades on this point for the defense are great because that walk from offense, I've said it time and time again, one of the longest walks in the game. You might as well hijack a double-decker bus to get there.
It's pretty equidistant. No, I will say those double-decker buses are not as swift as you might think, but it is really cool to be on the top. Still, looking at the next fight here, Louis, pulse bomb up and at the right. Give me the distraction here on the back. Forces out the sound barrier here from Renegades as Renegades looks to counter-engage in the Team Liquid. They get no kills after the sound barrier, which means Team Liquid can counter punches, but there's a Graviton as Juvenile just swings the hammer. The Graviton-Reinhardt combination with the nano boost will be enough to clean up this fight.
Yeah, very solid defense as the pulse bomb did connect late there on Mezar as well. Juvenile has his Earth Shatter. They are going very far. That's a nice chase on to Louis. A late death, a late cleanup is going to cause him to come back a little later, but he's on that Tracer, so not the biggest of deals. This Team Liquid offense, EP, I think is going to be predicated on a huge combo coming up next, but we'll see if Mezar can actually land an Earth Shatter first. They might not even need it.
We'll see. I wouldn't say there's too much in Team Liquid here that's really generic combo-y. I mean, if Mezar lands a good Earth Shatter, you can follow that up with pretty much anything, but you don't have your typical power combo set up with the composition they're running. But Juvenile, a little bit far out, and that's going to give the room for ID the tech visor. Doesn't have to worry about the Reinhardt shield. Finds Lucio immediately, although gets a little bit up close and personal with the Roadhog. Not where you want to be, but Liquid still has enough people to twist this fight to their advantage as Louis gets on the Sherlock in the back.
Well, I was expecting a little bit of nano onto the tack visor there is what I was expecting to come out. They did not give him the nano, so the hook was able to take him down before getting a ton of value out of that. But regardless of that, the scrappy fight has devolved, and they're just picking up kill after kill. Another Earth Shatter will hit nothing but shields as they will grab the second point.
And I will give Juvenile a pass there. That was a very good shield time from Mesar. He had his shield down for a split second and brought it up just in time to block the Earth Shatter. However, I think even if the Earth Shatter did hit, I don't know if it would have saved that point there for Renegades.
We'll see. Juvenile is going to stick on that Reinhardt, so it wasn't a desperation ultimate just to get a switch off, as well as we do rotate into Laz. Defense not looking all that great. They definitely had a better defense on the first day here as Liquid continues to roll forward. ID has made the switch off onto the Pharah. A good point for Pharah, both offensively and defensively. Generally really good here for him to be able to come up over top. Good verticality on this last point.
The other thing, too, it's going to force Renegades to swap up here. They don't have a great answer to the Pharah, but they are going to go right in. Mangachu with the whole hog. Finds Mezar early on. Nano boosted up. Going to make it a double before it's all said and done. So this push will be over despite ID just flying into the air.
Well, they had him slept. They just woke him up there a little too early. That's always brutal when that happens if you're going to be the Ana player in that situation. But they do get some good trade outs there as well as ID and Rafa grab a couple.
Now, Hex, preemptively, would you like to see a swap from Renegades? Maybe put Jesus onto a McCree or 76 to put more pressure on ID?
Not until ID proves that he can actually provide that pressure. So far on that Pharah, he's not done enough to really warrant them switching off. And Mangachu will make the switch anyway into 76.
Well, the Graviton comes in here from Saipe. The fall through, not there immediately, but is there a little bit after as Juvenile rolls in, takes out Mezar, and opens up the path for Mangachu and Jesus to get the last bit of fall through. So Renegades off the Graviton, can have another firm hold. 2 minutes left now for Team Liquid.
Well, they will have 2 minutes, and it's been a Rhine game of a game so far as Mezar and Juvenile have traded back and forth, both with Earth Shatter up now. They missed both of them early. We'll see how this one goes, but it has been a battle of the frontline tanks.
Well, this is interesting. We have a swap up here from Team Liquid. They're switching to full-on double hit scan. It's going to be Cowboy and Grandpa coming in here, so to speak. And this is going to make life very rough here for Jesus. He's had a lot of freedom to go into the backline here, X. Both Roadhog and double hit scan. I don't know if he's going to have the freedom he wants to move around.
Yeah, generally a slow push here. A beautiful Earth Shatter comes down, knocks on 3. They're going to follow it up with a Sound Barrier's EP.
Sound Barrier is in. Team Liquid still has all 6 up. Not going to get much off the nano boost. AZK gets caught out and slept. And as a result, Renegades can feel a little bit comfortable pushing this in a little bit further. That's exactly what they're going to do. Pulse Bomb comes in late just as the cherry on top of Jesus. And that's actually a very decisive fight here from Renegades.
I do like this double hit scan if they can only get around the bend. We highlighted yesterday the areas in which McCree really excels. It is this last point where he can keep the distance and just pick people off the cart as a closeout tactic, but not quite in closeout ability yet as ID is going to switch back over onto Zarya that McCree's off, but is going to get down to just about the last push.
And this is a little bit of a late swap for Zarya from Ites. He's not going to have Graviton up as soon as he'd like. The Graviton comes in from the defense. Mangachu looking for a fall through, but he was a little bit far back to help that out. And as a result, it's a half-hearted engage by Renegades that's very much punished here by Team Liquid. And now Team Liquid, Hex, they're going to have the opportunity to potentially finish out King's Row with under a minute remaining.
A Nano Visor is going to be at the ready too. It's pretty nice to close it out here. They would be better served, Renegades, to wait for their shield tank to get out so they can full force push this. Their shield tank is out. They're not necessarily behind it though. They're going to try to kick some flankers with attack visor.
What an Earth Shatter coming in here from Juvenile, though. Going to stop that Nano Visor in its tracks. And he's able to get the kill on the Mezar right after. So Juvenile coming in when Renegades needs it most here. 5v5 right now between both teams, but Liquid having to give a lot of space to the defense and giving them some sorely needed breathing room. But 5 seconds left, X. They must get on this cart.
Very scrappy there. Still mostly alive on the cart, though, so we will see a full 6v6 as AZK switch over the Tracer to get back here on time. We have a surprise Bastion from Mangachu.
Oh, that is not the surprise you want to see if you're the attacker. Suddenly they have to adapt to this when they have no time. Mangachu mows down Rafa. The suppressing fire is serious business right now. Leads to Mezar getting killed by Juvenile, and Renegades going to stop this cart right here, right now. Team Liquid not bringing it to the end.
However, in an era of defense that we've seen so far, that's a pretty solid offense. Getting there, we haven't seen a lot of teams complete maps lately, and again, we didn't see them complete it there, but a pretty sturdy push.
It was pretty sturdy, although I will say Team Liquid probably lost a little bit too much momentum on second. And that was credit to Renegades to really gum that up for as long as they did, because oftentimes on King's Row, while you can get holds on second, you can also see teams just breeze on through if they have a really good first. But for Renegades. They bought enough time on second that they didn't have to hold for too long moving into the last stretch.
And you definitely lose a lot of charge and momentum when you are switching up heroes as much as they were towards the end. I think a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that this roster still very much in flux. They don't necessarily know what Louis likes to run on this point or that point. Some switch ups. As you mentioned, ID switching to Zarya towards the very end was a little confusing, as Zarya's biggest ability is going to be that grab. They weren't going to have that up.
I think anytime you swap to Zarya, while you can run her for just her pure abilities, regardless of the ult, you do want to swap to her with about maybe a minute 45 left, because then if your Zarya is playing well, you can guarantee yourself that ultimate on your final push. That might be the last thing you need to break it through. But when you swap to Zarya when it's 45 seconds left, you're not going to have time to really touch in to Zarya's bigger strengths.
And one of the tragic parts is I think they wanted to run that double hit scan for that last bend push, where we talked about how McCree is so deadly over there. And then when they switched on to Zarya, they did get it to the bend, and they could have used that McCree there to actually clean it up and close it out, and McCree would have been decent against the Bastion, but I really like the switch from Mangachu onto the Bastion towards the end. It's just going to be very difficult for them to deal with in that very last push.
So let's talk here about the Team Liquid defense we are seeing, where we didn't see the Sombra on the attack here, Hex, but we are going to be seeing Louis on the Sombra here on Kings Row once more, which didn't work out very well yesterday, but they are going to run it here on the defense to really try and mess with the offense. Now, there is one good part about defensive Sombra here, Hex, is that if you hack a pack, the other Sombra cannot hack that pack.
Exactly. They are not going to be running the offensive Sombra, though. Jur just going to switch off. Sherlocky's going to be on the Mercy for this combination. Pure combo coming out. Mangachu and Sherlocky in the skies. AZK with his work cut out for him.
We're right now going to the backline, going to hack Winston immediately. That'll stop him from dropping the shield or leaping out during that hack duration. But Mangachu already very deep in the back, has 76 as a target, but the Zarya's shield ruins his day, causes him not to get the kill, and AZK and Louis going to be cleaning up the scraps as a result.
Yeah, they all rotated back there right there, and Sherlocky goes down with his Pharah. That's just generally the case. You cannot abandon your Pharah. She will die anyway, so that the combo goes down very early in that fight. I'd say a very nice response. A late death onto Saipe from Louis, too, is a nice little stagger play.
I think in general, I really like the response of Zarya to some of these dive comps overall, because that's a real killjoy. If you're a Pharah diving in with good positioning and then that Zarya bubble comes up, you're not getting that kill and you're probably going to die. So ID could really just focus on anti-Mangachu duty here.
Absolutely. Mangachu does come up over the top, though, hanging out in the window, and Juvenile is going to help him out as Rafa goes down very early in this fight, and now they are just picking them apart one by one. The scattered defense, it's probably all over as Renegades comes in very strong with this Pharah combination.
And that's the scary part about dive comp, Hex, is that the Winston can come in out of nowhere, be supported by the rest of his team, whether it be a Pharah, Tracer, or Genji, or in this case, all three, and immediately take out two people, and then actually recovering that team fight can be so difficult. And as a result, we're going to be seeing Renegades get this payload moving pretty quickly.
Well, ID is going to switch over to the defensive Pharah, too, so we will have a Pharah v Pharah battle. Of course, the odds would say that Renegades combo would be a little bit stronger as they were running the Mercy. Sherlocky going to switch, though, so both kind of unsupported Pharah is going to be happening as well. Compositions changing rather rapidly here.
Well, defensive Pharah, this is going to be interesting because we're going to get those classic Pharah v Pharah matchups, and ID pretty good at Pharah v Pharah. Not to say Mangachu isn't, but this battle going to the skies. Team Liquid already with 2 kills on this defense, and Mangachu decides he has enough, backs right out, going to wait for the rest of his team.
It looked for a moment as though Liquid were going to chase that down, but they're happy to get their couple kills, and they're not going to risk losing anyone there as well. So a good hold overall in the streets phase. EMP is up for Louis, though, too, so that might be a signal for this defense to get aggressive.
The defense here, the best thing you can do against the Sombra is get a pick-off and then engage before the EMP, but the EMP is going to be used right now, and they just want to get Saipe out of position. They do just that. With Genji and Reinhardt down, this is a big moment for Team Liquid if they want to push the offense back, and the offense definitely wants no further part of it.
EMP is one of those ultimates that I always feel if you have it, try to find a place to use it as quickly as possible. Of course, Pulse Bomb up there with as well, so Louis already going to be back at 10%, but EMP is a completely one fight. We've always mentioned that the downside is the other team was unable to use ult, so they're going to have ult advantage next fight.
This is a big fight for Renegades, and a fight they frankly should be able to win. Saipe moving to the backline. Dragon Blade unleashed, immediately gets Rafa and Mezar. It's a swift double kill if there ever was one, and this is going to be Renegades' fight. They'll be able to bring this all the way to the brim here on Streets Phase.
A nice 4K. I believe we will see at least one more fight, given that the slow nature of this EMP delivery system, and now even slower as we have to go into a pause.
So that would be Renegades here asking for the pause. Not sure what happened, some sort of technical difficulties, but Hex, let's discuss what is going on right here, as apparently one of the players is restarting their computer.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a crash there. I want to blame Sombra. feels apt to blame Sombra. She hacked the system, and now she hacked and paused someone's computer. It happens.
It does happen.
I mean, honestly, the history of Sombra in games has not been top tier.
I think we have to blame Sombra in this one. Well, since I'm joining you a little early, I really wanted to break apart this dive combo that we're seeing right now. Coming out on King's Row. We've seen it a couple times. I think we saw it on Hanamura yesterday from Renegades. Tracer, Pharah, Genji, Winston, and then they had the Mercy as well. So if you had to give like an MVP, who's really making the most impact in that dive comp? Or is it a true team effort?
I would say it's a team effort because here's the thing is that we talked about how ID was able to use the Zarya barrier to prevent a death early on, save AZK, and make Team Liquid win that fight. Well, here's the problem is that you only have one Zarya barrier you could use every 8 seconds. So if you use it to protect someone from Mangachu or use it to protect someone from Saipe, you're not going to have to protect against everyone else that's there. So the defense really has to choose what hero do we want to take away? And the problem is if you choose wrong and someone dies as a result, the dive comp is able to quickly snowball and take the point without a whole lot of casualty.
Well, their first defense on the dive comp worked out really well, and they were able to take down Mangachu and Mercy as well in that. And I think you can play against dive comp in the same way that dive comp ends up working, is when someone dives in, your entire team picks that target. You saw them all collapse. Even Sombra was back there helping out, ended up getting in the kill feed too. So the nature of dive comp is, let's all dive in and find this one target, but if one part of the dive comp comes in early, the defense can react to it by doing their own target focusing as well, and that's why Liquid was able to defend that very first dive.
Alrighty, so we are back in the game. Renegades back at full strength here. And they're still in a very good position as they move up. Team Liquid gonna have to really rush onto the cart to stop it here in time. And that's always difficult, particularly when they're running in without much in the way of ult power. So here we go, Earthshatter coming in early. And what we see here is Renegades not wasting any time. Juvenile, highly aggressive, gets nano boosted, and even though he drops 2 with the Earthshatter, that's more than enough to win this fight very decisively.
They look like they do want to come back in, but that is not the best of ideas right there, as they will both go down who were going to try to come back in. Probably good to get killed there and not end up using Barrage as ID was coming up over the top, and Louis also was about to have his EMP ready as well. But they will have both of those for the next fight. Yellow box of victory just about 10 meters shy of final point.
And this is a lot of momentum here for Renegades because remember, they don't have to get to full final map completion here, Hex. All they have to do is get to that yellow square of victory, and that is going to be it.
Well, ID does switch off, even though he had Barrage. He's going to switch to Diva instead to try to deal with Jesus. There comes a giant EMP to start this fight, CP.
And for Liquid, they just want stability here. They move in off of Louis' EMP, but they weren't really ready to follow it through, Hex. They were really far behind when it goes in. I think Louis did it a little bit early, and now, as Liquid tries to dive in, they're getting mopped up. This is a disaster here for Team Liquid, and Renegades now on the verge of finishing out King's Row with the W.
Well, Saipe gets 3, Jesus gets 2. Mangachu was on the Bastion, but no need for it even there, as the EMP, as you mentioned, perhaps not properly coordinated with the team. No cleanup there. It seemed like as soon as we came off the pause, they were not ready.
Alrighty.
Yeah, let's take a look at the replay here.
So we'll see what the replay of the game here is in just a moment. But for Team Liquid, it's interesting because their defense clearly, I mean, their offense really wasn't that bad, but their defense just was not there. And I just don't know if the Sombra is giving them the stability that they need.
It seems like they have not quite figured out how to work with it great yet, but Saipe, as we mentioned heading into this match, his Genji has been his main hero. He's a specialist on it. And 3Ks, 4Ks every time he busts out that Dragon Blade.
Yeah, I was going to say we saw that twice, I think, in 2 very impactful points to push through second and then to bring it on home. By the way, we did see Mangachu on that Bastion one more time. Maybe not necessarily the player of the game in that regard. Really didn't even see very much on that. But right there at the end, I wanted to talk about Sombra a little bit more. We saw some decent plays out of Sombra. I would actually say Sombra at the beginning, shutting down that Winston, made that initial dive a little bit weaker, and they were able to clean that one up from Liquid's end. But what are we seeing impact-wise from that Sombra?
You're not seeing enough. Remember that there's a big opportunity cost when you're running that Sombra if she's not giving the contribution that you would have from, say, a 76 in the back, or a McCree, or any other extra hero you can think of, then it's not going to be worth running her there. And Louis, frankly, was not dealing enough damage. And even though EMP fights generally went better than not, aside from the last one for Liquid, it just wasn't enough compared to what you can get by putting him on another hero.
You're giving up so much to run Sombra that you have to win every EMP fight, and they didn't. They won one of them very decisively. That last one there did not work out well at all. I think the problem right now is people are trying to balance it. EMP is very strong, so do we run around our Sombra only to get EMP, and then she's not doing anything else because you have to play that super safe, as we've seen Complexity play. They play it very crisp and very safe, not really going for even damage at all, barely even firing. Or do we try to find that middle ground of we need to charge up the EMP but also do some damage? I think people are still figuring out Sombra, and it's not really working out well at all.
Well, and a defensive Sombra provides some new opportunities to overcome in that regard as well, in that, you know, you actually have to, you're playing a defensive posture, you use that ultimate, you have to, as a team, cohesively now engage onto the enemy team, and you saw it there at the end, the disengage coming out of Renegades, they just backed off while that 6 seconds or while the ultimate was off, and then re-engaged and completely wiped up.
We need to see some Rascal-style aggressive from Sombra, I think. Just taking down players, and if you are getting that in addition to EMP, then she becomes valuable.
Right, you have to have at least the damage contribution part going in there. It can't just be EMP, but even then when you run EMP, this is a case where it is only 6 seconds, and teams will be in full retreat if you let them. So when you go with an EMP, the rest of your team has to be ready to immediately pounce on that and at least ensure that you get 1 to 2 pickoffs from that. You can't have a case where the Sombra is really far in front and goes, hey guys, I hit everyone with the EMP. Well, that's great, but if no one else is there to follow up on it, you've effectively wasted your ultimate, which is what happened in that last fight there on Kings.
Well, we also saw Sombra played on the next map, and that is going to be selected once again by Team Liquid as they lost, and it is going to be Temple of Anubis. So let's talk through, what did we see from Sombra on Temple of Anubis yesterday?
They played really well. The Sombra did do some impact on Temple of Anubis, but I was more interested in how they played the Widowmaker as well to be able to shut down first point. Of course, this is a map that that Team Liquid was able to win yesterday off the back of ID playing that Widowmaker and really shutting down those sight lines. So I thought that maybe it wasn't the Sombra. She didn't hurt them, I think, as bad as she did on other maps, but it wasn't. I don't think she was the reason they won Anubis yesterday.
I don't think she was the sole reason, no. I think, as you mentioned, the Widowmaker play that we saw coming out from Team Liquid was great and a good switch up. But I will say that Louis played Sombra far better on Temple Anubis than we saw him in Kings Row yesterday, or frankly, Kings Row here today. So I'm willing to give Louis some credit there because it was very effective for breaking point A, and he was using on the defense in a pretty effective way, because here's something to keep in mind is that defense on assault maps, all you have to do is kill one person generally, and that will be enough to hold point B in many cases. So if you could just trade that EMP to maybe get 1-2 early kills, Sombra is doing her job very effectively, and that's sort of the buffer you get on last point assault that you definitely don't have on a map like Kings Row.
I like the verbiage they're breaking the point too, because that's why I think Sombra is so valuable on these assault maps, is because it is, let's win one fight and let's win, well, at least let's win like one fight decisively again, and then able to hack the packs both defensively and offensively on Sombra is really good. Sombra's always been an idea to run in assault maps, not just from Complexity, not just this. A lot of teams have tried out Sombra plans, especially on Anubis, because there's great verticality. There's a lot of big packs. So I think we probably will see the Sombra, but I think if they win it, it's going to be largely based on other factors coming into it as well.
How do you think Farrah Mercy plays into that? We have seen, with the verticality, a little bit of Farrah here and there. Do you think maybe that's the X factor on the other side of the fight?
Farrah is very good on Anubis, period. Whether you run it on offense or run it on defense, defensive Farrah is sneakily effective on last point because there's so many areas where she can hide, so many areas where she can take cover. And as mentioned, for point B's on assault, if you lose even 1 or 2 people to a Farrah that's just sneakily flanking behind you, that's it. Your push is done.
It's very hard to get in on a defensive Farrah on last because there's 3 small hallways. You're not going to get in unscathed. Everyone's going to be a little bit beat up. And running that conjunction with a defensive Sombra, which we've seen, everyone's going to beat up. It puts a lot of burden on the healers because there's going to be no packs for you.
Well, I'll say I'm actually really hoping that we see some Widowmaker as we do go into Temple of Anubis. It looks like it is going to be Team Liquid on attack first.
Alrighty, from the streets of Kings Row to the Egyptian skies of Temple of Anubis here, Hex. And as mentioned, we're going to be getting to see that Team Liquid offense first. And anything that's shouting out to you here, they probably haven't locked it in. So in fact, let's talk about the Renegades defense here first as they are setting up.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what Renegades wants to run on defense. As you mentioned, they're going to be rolling out. But to no surprise, Mangachu probably at least going to start on Farrah. It seems like that is his hero of choice to start with, except on those hybrid maps where he likes to run the Torb instead. But no surprise, Mangachu, one of the old school Pharaohs, will probably be on that as well. So as we mentioned, offense, defense, Anubis, Farrah does have a home here.
Now, let me ask you this. Given the fact that we have been seeing more offensive Pharah, do you think part of the reason why we're seeing the defensive Pharah, beyond the fact that she is more effective now in the meta and what teams are playing, that Mangachu believes in his ability to win Pharah v Pharah if it comes down to that versus a player like ID?
It's very possible, but I think defensive here, there's so many small chokes, and the team really has to commit to one or the other, especially on Anubis first. Oftentimes, team want to rotate left through pack room on the offense, and you just can pepper it with rockets, and then it takes so much damage before they've even fired a first shot.
Now, I will say this about the defensive Pharah, which makes me question a little bit, is that Team Liquid did run offensive Widowmaker yesterday, and we take a look at their setup here, they're going to be running it once more on the offense. Now, they're running a defensive Widowmaker as well, so we have multiple layers to this here, Widow v Widow, and potentially Widow v Pharah.
There's probably some scouting knowing that ID is going to run this. They're looking to get eyes on him. That's why you see Jesus not even peeking out first. So ID has no idea he's going against another Widow. He does peek that very quickly. They're going to be looking to take down the combo because I think that's what they suspect they're going to be up against.
Right, and now this is high risk, high reward for the side of Renegades, where when you run the defensive Widow, if she gets popped by ID, it's going to be a long time for him to get back to the fight. Meanwhile, if ID gets popped, he doesn't have to run that far back, and he can even switch to something other than Widow should he want.
The only problem I see with ID is he's got a lot of things he needs to prioritize on this Widow right now. Does he prioritize Jesus if he knows he's there? And if he does that, the combo is going to take him down. And that combo is also not going to be easy to take down. Not with a Pharah and a Mercy. A Pharah 1v1 against a Widow, fine. You have to really prioritize the Mercy. Maybe you get hurt, but you still get popped by the Pharah.
So we do have a little bit of technical difficulties here with a disconnected player. But to elaborate on that a little bit, and this is something that's interesting because Widow, I think, has this issue, and so does McCree, is that these are heroes that are very good at shutting down different classes of other heroes. But even if they're up against two heroes that they're generally strong against, like McCree could do very well against the Genji. McCree could also do very well against Tracer. If McCree is going against a Tracer and a Genji that are diving him at the same time, well, he's probably going to die. Widowmaker has a similar issue where even though in theory she's great against Pharah, it only takes one shot to take her out of the air, and even then she can follow up 2 quick shots to do it. The problem is that if you're looking at a Pharah, you're not looking at the other Widowmaker. So ID in this game is really got to be aware of that double threat.
I just wonder how much convincing it took either of these teams to have one of their supports play Mercy after the day we saw Mercy have yesterday. It was not a banner day for Mercy at all.
So Mercy might like saying that heroes never die, but let me just say this, Mercies can and do die, at least yesterday, where it was just a bad time. Mercy was dying first, regardless of the team. It wasn't that one Mercy player was playing bad and other Mercy players were playing great. No, every Mercy player was having a rough day.
And it looks like just as I come back, it was good seeing y'all, but I'm going to leave you to it as we fixed our issues.
See you soon.
Farewell. But we are back in game here, and now let's see where this Widow play goes, where ID is going to be on this Widowmaker, and he has to be aware of the double threats. He should know what they both are now, so I'd expect him to prioritize the other Widowmaker and Jesus first, but if he's not careful, Mangachu can and will ruin his day. But look at that, into the backline of Team Liquid, it's the Hang and Mezar able to get 2 early on, so this is good momentum.
Jesus was able to get a couple of his own, though, as he won the duel between Louis and himself, as Louis tried to prioritize getting the Widow. So Jesus has gotten a couple kills, but it's always good for the offense to trade out here. But Jesus still rather untethered there as he's still going off. No one really in his face just yet, but Liquid has traded out a couple kills. He sees that Translocator get up. That's some aggressive Sombra play. Louis takes down Jesus.
Sombra right in your face. Not a good feeling. That gun can do a whole lot of damage up close. And ID going off in the back gets the cleanup off the respawn. So this is going to be a very quick take here from Team Liquid, and they'll even have some good momentum going to second as well.
Well, the nice cleanup there towards the end as Saipe took way too long to kill ID, and Louis comes in and gets his back right there, which is probably fine by ID. I'm not sure if he's going to stay on this Widow. Nope, that's immediate switch to Zarya as they try to push for last. He almost did have infrared sights up, so it's an interesting switch. Not super valuable towards last, though.
Well, speaking of switch-ups, fans of Torbjorn rejoice because Mangachu is breaking him out again. He's going to use that turret to apply pressure to the defensive right here of Temple Anubis as the offense comes in. It was just going to let the defense cheat a little bit more towards the other side in this setup. So here comes Louis, though. EMP charge at the ready. Liquid wanting to end this right here, right now. Mangachu already down. Torb not able to live. And AZK is the one on cleanup duty here, really following up that EMP. Saipe, again trying to be the hero. Dragon Blade up, going onto the backline. Goodbye, Ana. And Saipe, I believe, has just saved this here for Renegades.
It started so well for them, but you mentioned that it's only 6 seconds. You have to make those 6 seconds really count. Saipe getting the Dragon Blade back should bring it back for his team. Losing a couple like that is very difficult to be able to close out the point now. So Juvenile's going to come in, clean up the remnants of that push, able to finish it up there on his Winston. So defense holding off that very frightening first push after an offensive first take.
And that's problematic here for Liquid because Renegades, they were drained going into that. Oftentimes, the easiest time to take point B is right after taking point A, and now they're going to have to worry about more tools in Renegades because they will have the Molten Core up, and even just Primal Rage can really just delay for a long time to let respawns get back in.
Well, not even that. Molten Core's up, but you just saw him passing out gifts on the point as everyone gets a big chunk of armor. Look at those health bars up top. The only one who missed out was Saipe. Sorry, Genji, I'm out of presence.
Liquid right now going to go in, and a lot of this is going to come down to AZK. If he can find early Pulse Bomb, maybe they can take this at this ult situation, but Jesus, right now, 225 HP with the armor pack, going around the backside, looking for a Pulse Bomb opportunity, and with ID going down early, running in that Torb turret, going to be very difficult for Liquid to take this. Pulse Bomb comes in from Jesus, and this should be enough for a hold in. I gotta say, just on the Torbjorn note, can we get an Easter Torbjorn that just throws out Easter eggs? That would be incredible. I'm just saying.
I think you and I have had brilliant skin ideas over the last year or so of Overwatch casting and yet to be implemented. So probably a good reason why we're not on the development team. We still want Bastion wearing a suit and tie for little El Presidente that is come and gone, as it were, but another great skin idea. Anyway, Saipe is going to be holding off on this high ground, getting the poke and giving this team the information as they will rotate around towards left. Molten Core still is up, but that is where the turret is over there, so that might be their first target here, ZP. Actually,
he swapped it. He's not being predictable in where the turret is. Now this is going to be pretty hard for them to get on it with Molten Core up and out the ready. Regardless, Saipe taking the lead. Dragon Blade into backline, picks up 3. That was the room of death, not where Team Liquid wanted to be, or at least Saipe splattering them against the walls there. And this is the danger here of Anubis, where even though Team Liquid came in pretty strong in their first push, now that Renegades has gotten to a rhythm, they're ahead on ult economy. Breaking this as an offense is so difficult.
You see just how much trouble that turret is giving them as AZK went in and his Pulse Bomb was going directly for the turret. He wanted to use an ultimate to take down the turret to make sure they're unable to get that Molten Core off.
All right, well, speaking of Molten Core, Mangachu still holding on to that Molten Core. Going to be a linchpin of the Renegades defense here. And look, he's swapping the turret again, trying to mix it up, not be predictable as Liquid comes in from the opposite direction. Now, with ID already being down this early into the fight and having to worry about Molten Core, Liquid's odds of getting through here, very rough. Now, Louis is doing work on Roadhog, has picked up 2 here thus far. Mesvar diving in deep, holding on to Earthshadow, but no, he's going to get taken on the long ride the other way, but Juvenile gives his life for it. Here comes the Molten Core. And Mesvar not able to survive the damage from that empowered turret as Mangachu just swings the hammer. Mangachu, you're not Hammers Esports.
We have been talking a little bit about how Mez maybe feels a little disconnected from his team, and I have to feel that that came to bear right there. Everyone else was saving ultimates. It was going to be a beautiful junk rush. Mez, the only one who used to shatter way too late. We've seen a kind of a growing disconnect between Mez's play and the remainder of Liquid right there. However, Liquid still has 5 ults for this next fight, a push that they should be able to at least start winning.
This is a really good opportunity here, especially now Jesus down at 65. They just have to worry about Saipe, but if they can deal Saipe without losing anyone, Liquid could very well win this fight. But oh no, the Earth Shatter in from Juvenile, late to the party, but it is big. Sets up Mangachu for a huge fall through, almost gets in Molten Core. And I gotta say, we do talk about Juvenile sometimes going in over aggro and dying, but when he gambles and it pays off, it is huge.
A little bit of a Winghaven in his play, I would say. That's kind of how Winghaven has played over the year as well. Mezar's still the only one without ult up, so they didn't burn anything there, which is good for Team Liquid, as they will have at least 1 more push, probably 2 more pushes, but this is one that they should win.
Right, and for Team, well, I would never say should, just
they should win the first fight,
Anubis, but this is still a very good setup for them. ID diving deep, ground time going to land. Only gets in Saipe early on here, but does create big enough distraction for Liquid to just dive in. They've gotten 2 kills here. They had to burn 2 ultimates for it, and they lose to Hang. That's actually very rough. They're going to be hard-pressed to actually sustain themselves here, but they should be able to get a tick at the point. The question is, can they deal with Renegades as they roll back in? Mangachu trying to make something happen. Not going to happen early on. And Liquid in the best position they probably will be in here on point B.
Meanwhile, Louis did have a 4K right there as they do continue to clean it up. Still no ticks taken off of this point yet as Jared does find a kill. Juvenile finds a kill. That should be all over for this push as well, and they will attempt to stagger Rafa at the very least, and this could be pretty bad for them, waiting for that Lucio to finally die. Swift justice comes eventually, but that is a very late stagger. They burned everything there.
Liquid threw everything into that. Now they just have to hope for the Hail Mary attempt here at the end. And unfortunately, Dahang got bopped really early in that fight, and that's one of the worst heroes you can lose early on because you need that sustain to deal with the waves of respawn. And unfortunately for Team Liquid, that could have been it. But they are coming in here on the final attempt. We'll see if they can make a miracle happen.
Well, Jesus does get a flashbang there, unable to finish the kill, but look at the prioritization of this turret. They finally take it down. I think that swap came way too late, but a nice plug right to the dome from Jesus on the ID.
While I was doing that, Saipai was in the back with Dragon Blade just feasting on Liquid as they rolled in. Liquid was pretty much out of gas at that point, and that's what you could expect going to a final fight after using all your ults in the previous fight. No miracles here for Team Liquid. They're going to have to settle with a mere 1 point here on Temple of Anubis.
Pretty rough. They were able to finally take out the turret, but you saw just what a problem that was for them. They were trying to prioritize it, but then when they'd prioritize it going left, it had made its grand debut on the right side of the map and vice versa.
There's definitely some mind games going on there for Mangachu where he didn't want the offense to get comfortable going, look, the turret's always on the left side. We're just going to approach it, kill it, and go in this way. No, just by switching it up, you create uncertainty in the offense as they try and move in and figure out how to crack a defense like that. I will say that it's really unfortunate for Liquid where I think Dahang just got taken out by relatively long-range shots early on. That very well could have went their way if Dahang just could have stayed alive.
Well, I will say also the scouting that Saipai was doing by hanging out up top allowed Mangachu to reposition his turret and have it up to level 2, ready for that molten core boost every single time. That's why he was getting that good eyes on them. They're going right, here comes our thing left. We're going left, here comes our thing right.
All right, so for Team Liquid, one of their best chances of getting through here will be that first point hold, but it's easier said than done, especially when Renegades comes at you from almost literally every angle in a hyper divey offense, which it does appear like they are considering running.
Well, Sure Lucky has teased this Sombra before, and yeah, exactly what it is. A tease as he goes over to Mercy to be able to keep Mangachu nice and healthy. Everyone else going to pick their DPS of choice. Of course, the only one who is very consistently easy to call for Renegades is good old Jur. Jur's going to be on Lucio.
Jur and Lucio. It's just the thing in Overwatch where we were mentioning just yesterday where, hey, Rafa's known for swapping to a whole lot of things, especially on tank play. Well, don't expect a whole lot of swapping from Rafa nowadays because he is on Lucio, and Lucio just one of the most consistent heroes in the game, well valued by most teams, and frankly, most compositions will always run a Lucio, so Rafa is going to be on that no matter what. Most likely Jer as well.
Well, sometimes Lucios get to play Symmetra. Sure. It's a nice little switch up for them, but generally Lucios are just Lucios. But those are the compositions we're seeing here. Only 1 point needed to at least force a draw for Renegades here against Team Liquid on Temple of Anubis. We'll see what this combo can get done early. It has been a staple of the Renegades offense.
And for Renegades, as mentioned, they're going to be coming at Team Liquid from all angles. And we do have Winston diving in early on Jesus, but he's supported by his team. Mezar immediately goes down, and this means that no one's going to be on Jesus to really stop him as he applies that Widowmaker pressure. Meanwhile, on the point, nothing on Saipai, Renegades being untouched on almost all facets of their offense right now.
Yeah, Rafa going in very aggressive, which is his style on Lucio, but Jesus cleaning it up. 3 kills from Jesus' Widow.
You had to expect the fight to go that way when Mezar went down early on because there is nothing in Team Liquid's toolkit to actually apply pressure to Jesus.
Yeah, when that happened, you know that the Widow is going to be a reign of terror, and even if it doesn't work out, that the defense is going to be in a rough spot. So this is generally one of the most dangerous pushes, but given how fast they took that first, they're not even have any ults for this CP.
That is the downside of the ult change a while back where you lose 25% of your ult charge, and that quick an offense doesn't have the power. Jesus, though, on the side here, gonna be drawing the attention of Genji, trying to win this fight, not gonna do it. Louis takes him out, but on the point, it's going pretty well for Mangachu and company. Now, Mercy is going to fall, and that's just too many deaths for an offense to succeed here. So that kill by Louis, actually very important.
They're not done. They are not done as Saipai and Juvenile are in here. Juvenile now on the Tracer. Saipai gets a 3 kill on his Dragon Blade, and what it looked like might have been over is being carried back by the DPS of Renegades.
Saipai being a hero, he didn't have a whole lot of support for that. And usually when offense loses that many people, it's up. But Saipai, his rampage is continuing here. AZK, though, finally able to put an end to it. The rest of Team Liquid getting back onto that point. They are back in full. No Saipai to save Renegades this time. Mangachu gonna try and be that guy. Moving in over the top, barrage at the ready, and Mercy not able to keep him healed up in that situation. So AZK able to do a little bit of cleanup duty there, but really that was a tick that or that Renegades probably shouldn't have even gotten, and Saipe just willed Renegades to get it.
He bought enough time for his team to get back there, too. Had Liquid not gotten the kills precisely at those moments right before the reinforcements got there, it could have been a full reset of the fight, whereas Mangachu was rolling back in. But we are entering the ultimate phase of the game. Louis on this defensive Genji is an interesting pick. Mangachu is going to have Barrage up, though. We'll see what kind of value he can get off it. No one else on the side of Renegades with ultimates as they've switched off some heroes.
Louis right now is going to have Dragon Blade up. He's going to blow it right away again on a priority #1. Takes him down immediately, as well as Juvenile. And now there's not going to be any sustain left for this push coming in from the Renegades. They do decent work in the backline between Mangachu and Saipe. Saipe finding a way to will it over again. Who needs sustain anyways when you have two huge DPS players? Now Mangachu does go down, but AZK falling. This is going to be another tick for Renegades. And this is a little bit crazy, Hex, given that they lost their Ana so early into this fight. They might... We'll see where this goes, but Team Liquid able to push them out, and they don't get the tick.
It was not a tick. Very, very close. Visually looks identical to a tick right there, but that's really nice for Liquid to be able to pull it off. But they have to hold this for 5 minutes, CP. At this point, do you think Renegade should follow the old adage of let's bank everything and have a giant push, maybe try to force out some ultimates from Liquid's defense and just get that one good push? They got a lot of time.
Normally, I'd say yes, but their push has been so effective here against the odds that why not just keep throwing your bodies at it? You've gotten very close. Hope that it works out the next time. Saipe, Dragon Blade up here once more. Bad news for Team Liquid. Dragon Blade is going to come out, slicing, looking for a target, whiffing the air to start out with, not able to get what he's looking for. Meanwhile, AZK gets on the Mangachu early on. So 2 kills here from Team Liquid, and Saipe not going to have the hero moment this time.
An uncharacteristic Dragon Blade because he didn't kill 4 people. That's how good his Dragon Blades have been so far today. AZK does grab a couple kills late on the cleanup. His cleanup crew chaser's been pretty good so far, but burning an ult, not getting a single tick off there, can't feel great for Renegades. They are going to have some things to work with, Sherlocky and Juvenile, but also Saipe's done so much damage on the Genji, it's getting to Pulse Bomb levels, where if you have Dragon Blade, just use it.
Now, this is an interesting swap up here. Saipe actually getting off the Genji, going to Roadhog. I understand why they're doing this in terms of having more sustainability. I don't know if I agree, given the heroics that Saipe has been engaging in to this point. The next fight is underway. Renegades opening up here with an Earth Shatter. Juvenile gets one early on. ID crunched against the wall, swinging the hammer while nano boosted in and around the point, creating a whole lot of space for the rest of the Renegades team. It's 2 kills, nothing, 3 kills, nothing. And this is looking very good, Hex, but AZK trying to even the odds.
They bring it back, so that's going to be only 4 people on the point to try to close it out, but they do grab a couple more kills. Can they do this underhanded? It's very difficult to close out assault maps when you lose anyone on your offensive push. They will get most of the kills right now, though. Can they at least get a second tick and try to put this back together?
Right now, it's looking very good for Renegades. Saipe a lot more durable on the point now. No longer the Genji, but getting the work done, and Roadhog picks up 2. Renegades with a fearsome presence on the point. And now Team Liquid, they bust out the Mei. This is just to stall things out and look to get a kill or 2 that will let the defense overwhelm the offense here. But take a look, it's working out well. Mangachu drops the Graviton, pulls in 2. AZK, though, is able to get on the Saipe. He gets 2 kills, Hex. AZK has been the savior of Team Liquid on last year thus far.
Another couple of kills there. The ice block should slow it down enough. They simply won't get the reinforcements back here on time, and Liquid will hold it. Way to go, Mezzer, as he says hello to his sleeping friend on the ground. She slept with her eyes open. I mean, if Mei couldn't get any weirder, just right there.
We're really just playing into all the fresh memes about Mei being a force of evil. And yeah, I mean, if they're sleeping with her eyes open, that's a little bit creepy, but we're just going to leave that somewhere else. A lot of it. What do you want from me here? But we do have the offense moving in for Renegades here once more. They have a sound bear to work with and not much else, so they're going to rely, I think, more on Mangachu and Jesus to get the pickup power. And I'll note, Saipe, no longer the Roadhog, he gave it up to Mangachu.
A really nice ice block there to make sure that he stays alive. Now the Blizzard's going to come down. They're going to try to get aggressive here on the chase. A couple of headshots onto Mangachu, but Juvenile doing some work on the other side, though. They get 3 kills despite being Blizzard.
That is absolutely massive, and it's weird that Blizzard gets that little contribution. Now we'll see if they can get in on the point. They've lost enough people that they're not feeling very good about going back in. But Saipe, she goes in, charged up, gets on the Mezar, creating space for the rest of his team. And it's Saipe lighting it up regardless of what hero he is on. Soundbearer comes in for Renegades, and they gotta think that their opportunity is now.
Well, Rafa trying to prove that rollerblades can save the world, heals himself up. Still alive just now, but Mangachu with the kill right there. There is another Earth Shatter, but a couple people going down. Can AZK bring this back yet again?
Well, if he does, it's going to be because of that Earth Shatter, would set him up for 2 kills early on, and he is swarming the point once more. AZK, the raid boss that Renegades cannot defeat. Gonna find Mangachu at the very end. And Hex, there's not even a tick gained here.
Not even a tick, as you mentioned. Louis will switch over to the Sombra. I wonder if that was another stall-out tactic after he died on the Mei. Louis has been playing a lot of different heroes thus far, but it has been AZK who has been the AZK of old. It's been a bit of inconsistent couple months for him, but he used to be a killer and now just showing how good he can be on the defensive tracer.
And he can ruin this last gas push coming out here from Renegades. Renegades, they're all in on this. This is going to be their last good attempt here on the point. And the question is, can Mangachu get the early pickoff here? That's one way of winning these final points when you don't have a whole lot of pulse in reserve. AZK goes for the pulse bomb, does not connect. He's not going to have that in reserve, but oh no, Saipe somehow is out of position there, goes down, and that really hurts the Renegades' chances of moving in here.
Yeah, they are going to be down that Zarya, but they may just wait for her. 20 seconds is enough to get back there. Jesus takes on AZK, though. That is a big threat that they're able to dismantle. They're going to wait for Saipe to get back here and try to push again.
It's a big threat, but it's bittersweet because they lost Reinhardt right away in that fight. And now we'll see how this goes. But with Louis getting on the Sherlock early on, there's not going to be sustain here for Renegades. They still have to get 2 picks. They're trying to make it happen with AZK. He's nano boosted. This is one electric tracer moving right in. And this should be a hold here from Team Liquid. And that's going to give us a 1-to-1 draw, Hex.
Well, that is Anubis. I will say, though, despite not having a result there, I have concerns about Louis playing with this Liquid team. Several times there have been ultimates that have been used. One on King's Row, the EMP that went down, he wasn't able to clean up. Before even that Blizzard, they gave him the nano boost thinking that he was going to have whole hog. He did not until the end of that nano boost. And then the Blizzard in the corner that got almost no one.
The Blizzard in the corner is probably the most egregious of the 3 because all you have to do on Mei to ruin a push for a team on Anubis, they have to get in the point sometime. They have to get in the point with a lot of firepower. You can just throw the Blizzard on that point, and it's very difficult to deal with it as an offense. Not impossible, but definitely not a good situation. But if you throw it into a corner where a team hasn't even gathered there yet, they can avoid that, and that's what they did.
You just see the problems of adding someone to the roster that late. They just don't know exactly how each other wants to play, and some of those issues are coming to bear.
He's a loose cannon, I tell you. No, yeah, it really does seem like it, though. Yeah, it's just like, okay, oh, they're in an enclosed area. Here comes my Blizzard. And wasting a few other ultimates at other times. And not only that, but then he's switching on a Tracer. He played Mei, Tracer, Roadhog, Genji. He just seems to have a little bit of hero ADD as well.
Well, I will just say overall the maps, and I think our draw rules our host will explain to us momentarily.
I will indeed.
I believe I've forgotten them already. There's only so much information I can keep in my head. But it's a little worrisome because that Liquid chose the first map, and it was a map that Renegades had struggled on, unable to win that one. Liquid chose that map as being the losers of the first one. It's a map they won yesterday, unable to complete that victory. So now it's getting down to we're going to have to go to maps that maybe Liquid would not be favored on.
And we've been playing around with a lot of different ways of handling ties. And so right now, this is the way the rules stand. Basically, it's a single point on Ilios to decide basically what would have been the result of this last map. And that way the series can move on as normal. So we're going to be setting up for Ilios, and it is a random point on the map as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the random point on the map, that can favor teams or very much disadvantage teams. That's where it is a sudden death tiebreaker, and it's where you want to avoid going into that situation if you are particularly bad on control. Now, going to this map here, Ilios, of course, very favorable to Pharah on most of its stages, so you have to think that this favors Renegades at least a little bit going in if Mangachu does take to the skies.
Maybe I still have too much faith in Liquid. They have a good combo, too. They have a good Pharah Mercy combo that they've run for a very long time. Dahang and ID have played games together for a very long time, so it's not necessarily a weakness of theirs, although it has not been of the Mangachu level of strength, I would say.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. One thing that I would like to see is AZK. I mean, he went off on Tracer on that second defense, and so there are certain advantages on a few of these points to potentially having a Tracer. Not necessarily the most famous map for Tracers. It depends on, I guess, what point we're on. But we are going to be loading in here. I'm going to let you guys take away for a very short cast. A single point on Ilios.
Single point on Ilios. We'll find out what it is in just a moment. It is looking like it's going to be the Ruin stage here, Hex. So there's great verticality here, but also great options for Widowmaker. And both these teams have shown that they're willing to run Widow.
The very, very first time we ever cast Ilios EP, all those many months ago, we got onto this stage, I think a week after release, and it was just Widow v Genji on both sides of things. Both teams have a player who can run Widow, although Liquid doesn't necessarily have that great Genji play. Louis busted out a little bit, and we know exactly what Saipe can do on Genji. So if Renegade stays with the composition that they're looking for right now, it looks like they want to run a Widow and Genji.
And why not? You're going to have Saipei in their faces being a huge distraction. And if you're looking at Saipei, you're not looking at Jesus. And meanwhile, they do have a player in the air, a little known player known as Mangachu. So there's a multi-threat setup here from Team Liquid. The best chance for them, I feel like, Hex, is to focus on someone that's in deep. Perhaps Saipei, take him out and just go in one by one. But easier said than done when you have so many threats coming at you at the same time.
Well, at some point, they're going to have to find an answer for Jesus on this Widow. It is such a great map. The terrain really lends itself to some brutal sight lines that are hard to stay out of. But so far, no great answers thus far. The translocator will come up. A very aggressive Sombra, though bloodless so far.
Well, Mezar is going to be on anti-Widow duty. He dove right in, actually able to get on Juvenile, who is trying to protect Jesus. 5v5 right now on the point. Louis goes down very early in the setup here, and look at Mezar. His main goal is to stop Jesus from having a good time sniping, but he goes in a little bit far, but still finds AZK, so Mezar, the containment is working out here thus far.
They are trading back and forth. There goes down Jesus. That's going to open up the map for people as well, not having to worry about those sightlines as they are trying to focus down Sherlocky on that Pharah, or on that Mercy being very hard to catch. Louis does finally take it down. Louis with a double kill, bringing it back for his team. Has been very back and forth so far in Ilios.
Well, for Louis, he might have had a bad opening here, but he's definitely having a good redemption here in the point, getting the cleanup here for Team Liquid, and he gets on the Juvenile at the very end as well. It's this darting fire from both Tracer and Sombra that's really cleaning up Renegades in the melee and the point, and should be able to give Team Liquid first cap.
Absolutely, they're going to be on the point, and also that EMP is up. I think he should deep dive Sherlocky. Can he get back there? No, a little bit too late on the trace right there. Unable to grab him, but he will try to get there. Almost gets concussed off there. A beautiful, invisible, predictive concussion from Mangachu almost knocks him off the edge.
And credit where credit's due, Mezar's pressure on the Jesus actually made him get off the Widowmaker. He wasn't able to get the good sight lines because he always had a Winston in his face. Hard to shoot when you're getting fried with electricity, Hex. But there's the EMP coming in from Louis early on into this fight. They just want to stop Renegades early. It's a late sound bear. It comes in before Juvenile gets killed. And now, Mangachu going in on the flank for Renegades, and they still might be able to turn this fight just because there's no answer to the Mangachu right now. Smashes ID against the wall, and Renegade's going to pull this right back.
A nice EMP early, but not able to capitalize. At only one kill off of the EMP, and as you mentioned, no perfect answer to Mangachu in the sky. They've been trying to combine both Tracer and Sombra's fire onto Mangachu, but now that he's got the Mercy in his pocket, it's going to be very difficult to do so, and it becomes very difficult to reestablish against a strong combo like this.
Indeed, and one thing that's worth knowing though for Team Liquid, even though they were losing that, they did get a lot of stall on the point to get them up to 45%, so they're still working at a pretty big map advantage right now. It buys them about another fight, even if this one does not work out.
Well, Louis, even though he's been very good on the Sombra so far, his hand is forced off of Sombra, has to go into the 76 to deal with Mangachu in the skies, and you wonder if it's going to be enough. ID also on the Pharah too, so the prime target, the prime problem has been the combo. They have to deal with it.
Well, ID does have Barrage up and at the ready, and we'll see if he can make the most of it. It's been a quiet day for him in regards to barrages. Jesus, though, finds Louis early on, just sticks the bomb onto him. Goodbye and good night. He'll put more pressure on the ID to find a way through. Gets one missile onto the Mercy, not able to follow it through. And unfortunately, he just takes a rocket to the dome from Mangachu. Very fair action. Mangachu 1-0 over ID for Ilios.
You may give it one more life, one more run where everyone stays on what they are. Nope, they will not. I was going to give them that wiggle room right there, but ID has seen enough. He's going to switch over to McCree, and when someone's giving you as big of problems as they are, yeah, you have to simply focus on that, deal with everything else later. So running double hits going to deal with Mangachu on his Pharah, and of course, let's give some love to Sherlocky, whose positioning has been great.
Well, Louis' positioning has not been great. He just got surprised and ambushed there by Mangachu as he's going to lay in the Justice over the top. Not quite as effective as you might think, but the Resurrection going to be coming in from Renegades, going to be pulling Mangachu back to this fight. And the Sound Bearer, that's Beta 1 in action if there ever was, as far as Res and the Sound Bearer. But it's great. Everyone's back up, everyone's protected, and Renegades keeps control of the point. And now Liquid only has one more attempt.
It's been very difficult to deal with this combination, as we've mentioned. Even when they do get Mangachu, he's going to be the primary res target. When Mangachu goes down and Resurrection's up, don't be surprised to see it popped immediately on the solo res. That's how this composition works. They have a very difficult time. There is a tactical visor popped in the background, but so far the kill feed is absolutely empty, getting nothing out of it. Alone on the point is Mezar, but here's a couple kills from Liquid.
Louis with the attack visor finally able to get Mangachu out of the air. Liquid not going down quietly here, gasping for life here on Ilios, and Hex, for now, they shall live. They get onto that point at 50%, but they only have the buffer of basically 0 here, where if they lose one fight, that's going to be it. Renegades will take it.
So Renegades, conversely, probably 2, maybe 3 shots at taking this back. And remember, this is single point Ilios. This is the Anubis decider here, as we did draw out on Anubis. So winner of this single stage will take the map. If it's Renegades, they will go up 2-0 in the series.
Renegades here. They don't have to win this next fight here, X. They just need to prepare for the next one. Although, as I say that, if this draws out too long, this could be their last attempt, so they have to be careful. AZK able to really stop Saipei early on into this fight. Mangachu, though, looking to pick up a side. In on the back line. Ana in his sights, not able to finish the kill. Barrage being held. Justice reigning and immediately taken out. It was pretty hurried there by Mangachu, as Liquid now looking pretty strong. So they try and hold on here, but Mangachu, the res brings it back up. He comes back into Louis, and now Renegades, can they sweep this in their favor?
The immediate solar res comes back, and Jesus cleaning up the point. There goes down Mez. There goes down to Hang. That is most of Liquid. Only a couple alive. It's going to have to be the stall of a lifetime, but it looks like Renegades will flip this back over. It could not have been closer. Still trying to get some stall out. 99 to 99, but that is Renegades taking the draw breaker of Anubis on Ilios. Renegades goes up 2-0 in the set in a nail biter.
Renegades winning that tiebreaker over Team Liquid, and it was a bit of a heartbreaker there for Team Liquid because Team Liquid was looking quite strong. They had the opportunity there, Hex. They just had to win that final fight. They weren't able to do it, but credit where credit is due. AZK's Tracer, whether we look at Temple of Anubis, which we just got off of, or here in this tiebreaker, he's definitely been having a much better game than we've been used to him seeing.
He even had a pretty nice McCree life there when they or ID also had a nice McCree life too. What I think Liquid needs is they all have to have those good games at once. And it just seems like one of them's really on and then the other might be off or this or that. And that's been their story for the last couple months. But yeah, AZK coming to life.
It's like a bunch of sliders where we need all these sliders to be up at once, but that when we push one up, the other one goes down. And I think a big factor in that right now is Louis, a little bit inconsistent. We did see a few good plays there on Ilios, but really you saw him finally pushed onto the Soldier, and it didn't feel like he was comfortable out there.
The only time where Louis was actually able to deal with Mangachu was when he had Tactical Visor up, which, great, you should be able to take a fair out of the sky when the game is aiming for you. But other than that, he was getting outplayed and outflanked. I remember when they were coming back in on one of the pushes where Louis was ahead of his team and Mangachu was just behind him on the high ground, lands 2 rockets, goodbye and good night. And you can't have that happening when the main reason you're swapping the 76 is to deal with that aerial threat.
Yeah, they were finally able to find a little bit of success. I wrote down in my notes how to deal with Mangachu. That was really the story of Ilios' single point. And it ended up, I think, being Mezer on Reinhardt to some extent because they could then hide behind that a little bit and get some opening to get some damage onto Mangachu. And they got a few kills onto him. Even during, I think, 2 of his barrages, he went down and they were able to swing fights in their favor. But the story of that one really still, I think, is in Mangachu's hands. He was able to give them a second point in their score for this match.
Well, you have to be able to kill Mangachu in times when he's not barraging and not getting solo ulted on, because those were pretty much his only 3 deaths, is when he was barraging, and you expect to die. Even with a Mercy behind you, you expect to die in a barrage a lot of times, especially knowing what he's going up against, and when he gets ulted. And also the bigger problem, too, is when they killed Mangachu, Sherlocki stayed alive. So that's Mangachu's second life.
Well, and the other problem, too, that Liquid clearly showed is that they weren't very comfortable in ID taking that 1-to-1 fair matchup and just going, well, we're just going to run a better Pharah. They conceded in sense by their switching up, saying, no, we can't run a better Pharah than you. And that option was off the table, which is unfortunate because in Overwatch, you want to have as many options as possible for dealing with an enemy composition, and just outright conceding you have the better air game, that limits what they can do in terms of actually dealing with it.
But it's always stunned me that people look at a Pharah and a Mercy combo and they feel they can deal with it with one hero. That's 2 heroes they're already putting up on there.
Do the math.
You have to devote the resources to it. And whether that's a Zenyatta that they can run or if it's double hit scan, you at least have to make it even. Otherwise, you're asking a great deal from either your single soldier or
maybe a Widow.
Yeah, you're asking way
too
too much. They're running 2. Let's devote at least 2 resources to deal with it.
Well, we are about ready for the next map, which is going to be Oasis, but I do want to remind everyone that's watching that technically that last match was actually for Temple of Anubis. It was the tiebreaker for that. So let's just highlight a few things that we saw from there. Battle Torb. Mangachu absolutely dominating on that. We're not going to see a play of the game probably, though, or we didn't see a play of the game from him, mainly because Saipei just absolutely wrecked on that Genji.
We don't get to play the game in a draw because no one
Oh,
deserves
yeah.
it. No one,
'Cause
no one
they don't
deserves play of the
deserve it.
game in a draw. Yeah, no one likes
Even
it.
if there was, we wouldn't have gotten it because of that. Well, either way, let's look at Oasis in that case. So this is another one that Liquid was selecting because of their loss in the previous match. Why do you think they chose Oasis?
I don't really know why they choose Oasis over choosing Nepal, which historically they've had better success on. Now, maybe the idea here is, again, you're trying out a new player. Teams are less familiar with Oasis, particularly in the West right now, because tournaments haven't been running Oasis until very recently. So maybe there's the idea that, well, if there's less prep involved, we will be better on it. Sure. But Oasis is also very Pharah-friendly, and given how you just handled things on Ilios and how they were switching and not able to deal with it, I don't know if you really want to go into this versus Renegades.
Yeah, ID did have a strong showing on Pharah as well, but yeah, when you're going up against Mangachu, that's a hard bet to hedge.
I agree. I have no idea why you would pick into it when Mangachu was just the biggest problem for you, and now you know he's just going to be running it on Oasis. Oasis has been designed for Pharah, as you'd imagine, but maybe they thought they found the answer late in Ilios.
It's possible, but I will note too is that going back to the defense of Nepal is also one of the maps where you don't always have great Pharah games. There's a lot of geographical areas where she's not always the best. Certainly on Village, you can play around her. Of course, Mangachu likes playing on Village for other reasons, like sometimes coming out with Pocket Bastion. But I do think Nepal probably would have been a better pick, but we'll see if Team Liquid can reverse their fortunes here and go for the LGS reverse sweep starting here on Oasis.
Well, we do see the compositions coming out. It does appear that Liquid is queued up, at least for the moment, on their own combination to hang an ID, as we mentioned earlier. So we might see a little battle in the skies as Sherlocky and Mangachu will be running that on the other side of things. Meanwhile, the ground level fight will be AZK versus Jesus, both on Tracer. Mez and Saipe probably going at it as well, as Saipe's on that Genji.
Saipe, he is the threat, often on the ground, often in your face, and you're looking at him, you're not looking at Mangachu. Right now, he has Mercy in his sights. Instead, swapping over to Pharah, oh, right in Mercy's face, goes for the punch finish, not quite enough. As Mangachu still in hot pursuit, but while that's going on, Mezar is able to deal with Saipe's aggression, so a lot's going to be on Mangachu here to land these rockets, and for now, it's very good evasion here from Dahang to keep himself alive.
We just need that cut card of, meanwhile, below all this action, it has been Liquid cleaning it up, and gotta give credit to Dahang there. Squirrely Mercy play, evading a lot of those rockets, and that combination did win out the first fight, and the remaining forces on the ground all went Team Liquid's way.
It's almost poetic there where Mangachu is just exhausted and I gotta go hit the ground. And guess what? ID was there with a rocket to welcome him to Terra Firma.
Well, it looks like we're going to have the sequel queued up here as both teams are going to look at it, the combos chasing each other through the skies. It seems like we have two different fights here. A huge chunk of a rocket onto ID, but Mangachu unable to finish it just yet. He's going to retreat back to his friend. Meanwhile, on the ground, Mezar takes down Saipe. Jesus does get the best out of Louis, so back and forth, but Sherlocky going down is huge.
Mezar's clearly on anti-Saipe duty, and Mangachu right now is not quite able to get this done. He's chasing the other combo, and the other combo isn't killing him, but he's getting just rope-a-doped around, and it's really Mezar that's been the bulk of the killing power onto the other flankers here from the side of Renegades. So for Team Liquid, they've bought themselves 45% to 0 here thus far, in part by just making Mangachu tire himself out.
Well, we mentioned this might be a do-or-die tournament for Liquid. Definitely a do-or-die game in this set for the very least. And why not go back to your roots? The good old Quake rocket launcher, ID having himself a pretty good game. Dahang staying alive up there too. Jesus going to be looking for a pulse swap. He's trying to take the skies because they need help up there.
Well, Jesus was looking around for the initiation, but just finds ID in the face instead. I think he was welcoming that because two of his teammates are already dead. Probably don't want to throw a pulse bomb in that situation, even though it's not as big of a deal ult-wise as some of the other ults. It charges quite fast. Rough times here for Renegades as they try and get things going, but Hex, Dragonblade is on the way.
Dragonblade is at the ready, but both teams with nearly every single ultimate, so we are definitely entering that phase of the game. It's going to be down to execution now, too. Louis on the ground level does eat a pulse bomb to open up this fight from Jesus.
Jesus, that's exactly what I was looking for. Now they don't have to worry about the 76 pressure. They're going to drop the beat in terms of Team Liquid to try and deal with this in 5v6. Arguably a little bit slow in there. It is compensating for being down a member rather than having a position of power, and it's just not working out. Jarrett going to win that Lucio v Lucio battle, and Saipe, he might not even have to use this blade here, but with the resurrection coming in, he will probably bring it out, looking for his opportunity, and everyone's pretty split right now. Hex is not giving him great chances, and Louis with the tech flies might be turning this right back.
Yeah, he gets back into the fight, and him and AZK are going to combine for a couple of kills here. Louis still alive, trying to finish out this Winston, but Winston too big of a health pool to get anything going. ID takes out his counterpart, and Mangachu as AZK does chime in, getting very close, but that is one death away for Liquid taking this first stage, just trying to clean up the remainder of this point.
So one thing I really liked about this here for Team Liquid Hex is that they were very spread out. Mangachu didn't have clumps of people to roll into. He was stuck chasing the other Pharah all game to very little success. Saipe looked downright confused when he had Dragon Blade because compared to other maps, you could go, oh, clump of people, let's go in, find the Ana. Everyone was spread out, and not just spread out in terms of distance, but also in elevation. Renegades just looked a little bit confused in that situation.
Well, I just learned that Mercy's resurrection affects players who are not Pharah. She resurrected people who had actually died early, which is a really nice bonus pick there because ID had not died the whole map, but when they started to lose players on that point, the res came in late and brought them right back into that fight. So resurrection not going to be on the side for Team Liquid though as they get off of what was working so well. Definitely a stage-specific composition. It seems like Renegades wants to run the same thing, but Liquid going a little heavier on the ground.
Liquid definitely heavier on the ground because they're going to have AZK moving forward, controlling space with Roadhog, looking for early hooks, and Renegades does not have that level of beefy ground presence. They're going to have to be more agile, come in from the flanks and look for a pickoff before they can get in deep.
Well, they do try to get them in the corner over there. Saipe onto the Diva for one of the first times we've seen, so he's going to get some damage going there, but D-Mech very, very early on as Liquid had take that fight into the corner. Mangachu does find some purchase onto AZK over the side, though, as he's still damage boosted. Very even back and forth, ZP, 2-2.
Well, Mangachu looking to make this a early cap here for Renegades. Justice coming out. First fight barrage for Mangachu. Testament to how much damage he did there, and this is definitely a better stage here for Renegades and how they like to play because, frankly, Mangachu didn't have to go around the map 5 times to find someone to shoot.
AZK is very likely going to be the counter to Mangachu. We've seen Roadhogs be a good counter to Pharah on this stage in particular, mainly because it is a little smaller than the other stages of Oasis. So that you saw AZK peeking over there trying to get something done, but Mangachu very aware that he's a presence on the map.
Well, Jesus right now looking at the flank on the Ana. Almost had it. She was low. Does get it in the end. Down goes to Hang. So Renegades being sneaky here in defending their control. Jesus on this first Lucio. Rafa was willing to take that and almost had it. Jesus barely living, but even if Rafa had won that, wouldn't have mattered as Mangachu over the top, just crushing the remnants of this Liquid squad.
You know, we heard early on preparing for this tournament when Rafa was on Lucio that he plays an aggressive Lucio. And so I'm thinking of other aggressive Lucio I've seen. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a notch above aggressive Lucio trying to win all of those. And it's not just that play, but plays prior to that. So that Lucio not working out there as it has been all Renegades so far this stage.
Well, Mangachu right now in perfect position to come in over the top and just end this push with a barrage. He needs one more rocket to have it. Louis trying to deal with him, not able to do it. Does have tac visor at the ready, and that's what he's gonna do with the nano boost. This is gonna ground Mangachu and make him look for cover. Sherlocky not able to get through that door, and the rest of Team Liquid just swarming in here off of a well-timed nano visor by Louis and the Hang.
Very well done there, making sure that they take down the Mercy first because you never want to kill a whole team and let Mercy dig. But Jesus with a beautiful pulse bomb takes down to Hang and Louis. Is it going to be enough? Rafa with his revenge takes down Jesus. They will finally flip it over. 79% on the clock for Renegades on Oasis's second stage.
So what Renegades is doing here, off of that pulse bomb by Jesus, they're actually just going in immediately here because you have a brief moment of a 5v4. That is the power of landing that. But here comes Liquid. They blow up the Pharah using the sound barrier. And Louis, again, just gonna move in after taking out the Pharah, gets Juvenile, or gets taken out by Juvenile towards the very end, but Sherlocky uses the ground for cover, resurrects up all the dead members of Renegades, but they get rezzed right into a Graviton X, and that goes from bad to worse as AZK is right there with that Big Bang combo.
Unfortunately, it's one of the reasons we have not seen a whole lot of Mercy in different compositions that don't have a Pharah. Resurrection is simply not what it used to be.
Well, it's broken down to a big melee here in the point. It's Renegades that's able to take it back. It was Jesus coming back in late to the fight. Of course, he died early on to start that last fight, and he got the cleanup needed there, even able to win the Tracer v Tracer towards the end.
So Liquid down to it now. One last push for them as the clock ticks up to 92% for Renegades. Liquid trying to bring this back, or Renegades are going to tie up the map.
Renegades in great position right now. They only have to win this fight. Liquid gonna have to win this and more, but with Sherlocky going down early, might not matter. Louis takes a rocket right to the face. Now, Mangachu's not gonna have the support he normally has here, but that hasn't stopped him before. Diving deep, looking for Ana to Hang. Nothing he can do. Takes a rocket right to the floor. Mangachu gets a second, right on target. Still might not be enough though, but the sound barrier comes in from Renegades, will let them secure this point. Now for Liquid, can they even delay and keep themselves on it?
It is absolutely chaos down there as Jesus takes down Louis. It is extremely back and forth. Jesus trying to bring this back for his team. Now the Mercy is back in the fight. Sherlocky only briefly back there as he takes a pulse bomb in, but the numbers do favor Renegades. They are able to finally flip it over. We are tied up on Oasis.
That was definitely one of the more crazy and chaotic control point maps we've seen, where just when you think one team is going to win it, the other team able to flip it back. And I will note from Renegades that if you take a look how Jesus set up one of the final fights there, they are willing to sit there, go for a kill or two at the end of a fight, and then maybe take a 5v4 type situation rather than saying, everyone get out, let's go for 6. And this has been a trend in Overwatch, I feel like, Hex, where teams are more willing to play scrappy and not just go, all right, you guys all respawn, we'll all respawn, and let's do this like gentlemen.
That's true. I also think the stage has a lot to do with it, because having watched it yesterday, it felt like just one giant fight that never ended as well. Oasis feels very different than Nepal, say, in that sense, where you do have 6v6 team fights and resets. But we're on the third stage of Oasis now as we enter into it, and it looks like we will see Liquid going back to what got them the first stage win to begin with, a combo back on the field.
We'll see just how this works out. Of course, ID will be in the air. I don't know if Mangachu is going to follow him quite as heavily as he did before. We'll see how he decides to run this. But we do have a Fair Mercy versus Fair Mercy stuff here. But Renegades are ignoring it. They're going for the ground war, but might be a little bit too low too late, as AZK has been doing serious damage. Got Jesus and D.Va early on and still continues forward. Finding Lucio. AZK just a terror on the ground right now.
Yeah, AZK with 3 kills right there. Really nice. And as you mentioned, it was kind of interesting that Renegades was ignoring the combo fight, but even having done that, they were unable to do the damage to allow their team to finish up kills. It looks like now they will finally reset. Liquid with firm control of this point.
And AZK, again, this Tracer has been great here throughout the day for Team Liquid, able to win them quite a few fights. We'll see what he does here with Pulse Bomb up early on. He's going to look to go around the flank. Obviously, he'd love to get support right now. Lucio really low, doesn't feel the need to do it, but also doesn't get the kill. And speaking of Tracer play, while AZK is failing to get kills here, Jesus got onto the Team Liquid backline. AZK, though, lands the bomb. Still in here after taking out Juvenile, but the odds are very much against him now, and he's just going to get taken down in Tracer on Tracer fighting.
You know me, and I think most pulse bombs are not wasted. That one is getting borderline right there, because that fight was all but over, and yes, he got a kill, but it'd be nice to have that pulse bomb up for the next fight when his team is actually there to take advantage of it. All that pulse bomb did was make sure that Jur has a long walk back, and, you know, it's an inconvenience more than anything else. They do have firm control of the point.
Well, here's where Mangachu is very comfortable in over the top, looking for flanking barrages. He just goes right in, but Justice rains right into the Korean future vacuum of D.Va. But it still hit Rafa enough that Juvenile could clean it up, so it's not a full waste as you might think. Now he's looking for Dahang. Dahang trying to give him the slip. One rocket on the ID. Fair v fair action in the sky, and down goes Dahang. The flick shot, a double midair cure by Mangachu, and that is going to be a little bit redemption for him compared to point 1.
It's kind of interesting how Mangachu is playing this midair fight, because generally you want to pick a target and fire all of it at it, but he is just picking whoever's presenting the better option to actually connect with a midair rocket.
Meanwhile, Louis trying to bring this back here for Team Liquid in a D.Va. Pretty low HP. Rocket gonna knock him right out of that back, but oh no, ID back into the fight, in over the top. Even more Justice raining from above as Liquid trying to retake this in the moment. But note, as long as it's being contested, Renegades is still gaining progress here, Hex.
Well, Liquid had used a lot there to try to get that point as well, unable to actually bring it back, and the kill feed still in favor of Renegades. Is Rafa able to take down Juvenile? Rafa is still trying to show up in the kill feed as he's on the point and dancing around. Not quite over yet, but Renegades in good position as they do DMAC and then get a couple of kills. It's been all Renegades this stage.
And for Liquid, they're only going to get one more attempt at this here, Hex. Otherwise, they're going to be down 2-1 here on Oasis. And of course, already being down 2 maps is not where you want to be. So Liquid, they do have a Resurrection up here, and they might have a Self-Destruct. Not the greatest tools, but still potential here if they can avoid Mangachu, who will have that flanking barrage.
Well, Resurrection on both sides, so it's going to be about whose heroes die and where. And will the second rocket hit? No, not quite yet, as Dahang still being very slippery over the side. Meanwhile, Mezzer and AZK on the ground war are at the bottom, but Dahang did go down there. No Resurrection available for Liquid, as Renegades still have theirs.
We're awfully far out here over the ocean on Oasis. Mangachu still holding on to that barrage, giving fits here the Team Liquid. But AZK, the hero, perhaps once more. Sherlocky is down early on in this fight. Mangachu 20 HP, just barely able to get out of that situation. And Team Liquid, when their life was on the line, they were able to come through and extend out this stage at least a little bit more.
And it was AZK yet again. He has been in absolute hero mode for this team tonight, not just this map, but several others as he continues to try to out-trace Jesus back there. He's just going to get on the rewind on the way back. Both Resurrections now up for both teams too, so Mercy Kill is going to be pivotal in this next fight.
Mangachu coming in, still on a barrage. There's one rocket on the ID. He's gonna get it hold up, but now going for the hang. The double shot, one after another. Mercy going down to hang. Justice from above takes out ID, and the resurrection is there. He's not done with his carnage and mayhem yet. And that resurrection was needed because AZK was getting to work once more. But there's nothing to stop Mangachu here. Hex in over the top, looking to get Lucio. Somehow doesn't finish him. I think even he was surprised. But the flick shot back on the Rafa at the end. This might be it for Liquid on the stage as Renegades will retake the point.
Tahang is a top-tier support, but that was not top-tier support play there when he ate that rocket very early. He does get back in very late, gets the resurrection up, but gives his life up for AZK. Doing all he can, gets one, but the kill feed all red in favor of Renegades, and it looks like they are on the verge of taking the stage.
Well, they're on the verge, but ID is back here, and so is D.Va, so we still have a fight on our hands. Still, the sound barrier comes out, going to make Renegades pretty tanky here for a moment as ID takes another right to the grill. Mangachu on point right now. Do you see a Percy flag at the last moment for a bit of delay, but unfortunately to hang, not going to be enough. And even if he got there, his lifespan would have been measured in seconds.
It's been a rough tournament for Mercy. I mean, Tahang, there's a couple times where he died to Mangachu where I felt like his Guardian Angel play was not perfect. One, he flew right in front of a rocket. Towards the end there, when the resurrections were very valuable in the fight, also got himself in a little rough position. And as good as Tahang is, he hasn't really played all that much Mercy in recent months. Maybe that's affecting him, hard to say. But we are going into the fourth stage of Oasis. Of course, Renegades up 2-0 in the series. Liquid back against the wall in every aspect.
Well, we've mentioned that this is a tournament where Liquid really needs to come out strong and prove that they can still compete at the highest levels of Overwatch. And while there have been moments of brilliance here, losing here on Oasis is going to mean that they start out OCS 0-2, which is definitely not how they wanted to begin things.
Well, they are not going to be running their own combo. This is the map that they didn't run it on earlier either, so perhaps they have their simple strategy here. ID does desuit the D.Va right away. Mangachu still untouched over the top here. Looking forward to Hang very early on. Tahang does heal himself up, trying to get away. Does not. Mangachu able to finish that kill. Meanwhile, on the ground, AZK took out Juvenile. Sherlocky goes down as well, ZP.
And for Liquid, they're able to get firm control of the point. This is where Louis was able to get a beat on Mangachu early on, took him out, something that has been lacking here for Team Liquid. And once you get him out of the air, your job is going to be far easier in securing the point.
Well, AZK continues his reign. He's got Pulse Bomb up, cleans up a couple of those kills rather late. It does seem like no one's really going to switch up off of much here, but Saipe, sensing they might need a little bit more damage on the ground, perhaps maybe even to deal with the threat that has been AZK, going to switch over to that Genji.
And Saipian Genji, obviously a pretty big threat. Most of the time, he just ran into Hang and got rocked right out of that fight. AZK trying to pull this back in, but Mangachu, justice from above. AZK might be on the ground, but he has nothing to do with the air as the rockets just tear through the rest of the Team Liquid squad. Again, AZK still looking for hugs, but not going to be enough.
Tragically outnumbered, but some nice blink around, some nice stall. Bought them about 5, 6, maybe even 10% on the point there. So that's why AZK was not retreating there. It had already been lost. He's not going to win that 1 in V4. He knows that. But his life is worth that 10% charge on the point as they try to reinitialize.
Well, for Team Liquid, they're in a good position to retake this here, and I think the momentum is going to be harshly against them if they don't, given the situation. Louis has Attack Visor up and at the right, going to blow it here early on the start of this fight, shoots Mangachu out of the sky, and Mezar is right there at the fall through. This is a fight that Team Liquid has needed to do well on. Now, the Resurrection does come in, but they're in great position to punish everyone who is just brought up by Mercy, and Louis on a rampage, really showing up in a case where he's been relatively absent the last round.
Well, the flank heart got a lot of work done. They did end up throwing the grab on there too. It did not hurt them, but it's like all they'd like to have up. Mez is out for it. He gets 2 kills very early, but here comes Saipe's Dragon Blade.
Saipe trying to bring this back from the brink, and he might just be doing it. Gets both supports here for Team Liquid, and even though Renegades, they still control the point. Liquid was never able to cap it there, so it's not even delay at this point. Liquid is just outright getting ejected from this point.
ID takes on Jesus eventually, who was trying to get some kills going there, but Saipe has become a problem for them that they will have to answer. Maz is not on his Winston, so only on the Reinhardt. It has been Saipe bringing this back single-handedly. It's a great switch that he pulled off middle of this map, knowing that they simply weren't finishing kills. A great hero to finish those kills is that Genji.
Here comes Mangachu in over the top. This is his move, and move of many fairs, just using high elevation buy a doorway to your advantage to try and get big barrages off. And here he goes inside of Justice Reigning. Doesn't get the direct kills, but sets up Juvenile for 2. And that's more than enough for Renegades here to secure this fight. And Team Liquid, one fight away from losing the map and losing the series here, Hex.
That was such a brilliant combination with barrage into that architecture. Look at these archways. What fit perfectly in there? Winston's bubble. They got the Winston in front. Mangachu was completely safe behind it.
Well, Team Liquid needs to get on this point right now, Hex. 97%. They're getting knocked away. Mangachu playing goalie takes down 2 immediately. And Liquid looking for a miracle. They've already lost 3. I don't know how they're going to do this, but this is all sorts of rough. Renegades in great position right now, just keeping them off the point. And Saipe, this blade could be the dagger. Looking for the final bit of cleanup, slicing and dicing. Liquid just desperately trying to get onto the point, and the kill feed filling up with red as Liquid is denied. Liquid going down in flames on Oasis, 3-0 in favor of Renegades. Will be the story of the series.
I just wait for Liquid to put it all together every time. There's always a good player who shows up. Yesterday it was ID, I thought had a great game. Today it was AZK. They never have great games together, it seems. And that's what every other team in this tournament has, is they have 2 to 3 consistent threats. And it just seems like they take turns being the carry.
No doubt about it. I mean, even in this series right here, where we had certainly many Mangachu heroics, you take a look at Saipe, able to go in, clear out that room, get on both supports, bring a fight back from the brink that, frankly, Team Liquid needed to win, given their ult positioning. You have to have those multiple threats on a team, and as you mentioned, Team Liquid has rarely had everyone operating on the same page at the same time.
I think this is a perfect game to illustrate that fact, actually, because, and to give Louis credit, by the way, Soldier was a lot better for him. It seemed like he was having a little bit more impact, but still not having a standout performance like we need them to find victory. But we really had a truly segmented fight. There were multiple battles going on. I mean, we had the Pharah versus Pharah battle, which had the Mercy in there. Then you had Tracer versus Tracer on the ground. And then this sort of pseudo battle between Louis playing Soldier at the end and then Sai play on Genji. And we all just saw how that ended up turning out. But let's start at the beginning. Pharah versus Pharah. How did that break down there in this one, ZP?
Well, Pharah v. Pharah, whenever you were in a more enclosed situation, Mangachu dominated. It was only in the wide open areas of City Center where you saw Mangachu just going around and around trying to get in on things, and it didn't work out. But here we go. Here's a replay of Mangachu going in, and just the accuracy in his rockets, able to shut down a fight. Barrage at the right time, ends up taking down 2. He was a terror over the course of this game, and I just love how he was playing goalie there at the very end, getting not 1 but 2, as Liquid was fighting to stay alive in the series.
What I love about that very first opening fight that we saw right in that replay was that he had just lost his Mercy, and he still goes in, but he went towards his Diva, knowing that that can support him too. If he can just stay in that defense matrix, no one's going to be able to deal with him, and he got a couple kills off just rotating towards his team.
Yeah, and they have the history a little bit more there than Team Liquid. Team Liquid still working with some of these roster changes, trying to find their own. And I really think a lot of that does come down to carries, who is going to end up carrying for them. And it can't just be one person. They've got to have multiple threats. Well, that is the match. And it was honestly probably one of the longest 3-0s that you'll ever see. Liquid, they fought tooth and nail there, but they just didn't have enough to even take a single map.
Well, the long story for Team Liquid, basically since forever, is that they can have close games against any team in the game. It really feels like that from time to time. Now, that isn't always the case, but you never look at them and go, why are they even on the stage? They never get blown out that hard, but then they just have trouble actually winning games and putting up W's in the win column. So in the end, it just feels like same old from Team Liquid, even as they have been swapping up rosters.
Well, that is going to solidify at least 2 records at the end of week 1, and it is going to be Renegades going up 2-0 and Complexity. Team Liquid going down 0-2, and we are actually going to find out 2 more in the next matchup, as we're going to be watching Hammers versus Complexity. We'll break that down a little bit more, but I do know that we want to go to a break. So that everyone can recuperate after the longest 3-0 that we'll almost ever see, as we're going to watch Hammers and Complexity duke it out in just a moment.
Step 3, that was the room of death, not where Team Liquid wanted to be, or at least Saipe splattering them against the walls here. This is the danger here of Hammers, where Team Liquid came in pretty strong in their first push. Now that when it's the picture,
top. Mirage armed and ready. Justice raining from above, and he picks up a quick to kill and split this fight. Just because there's no instant making right now. Smashes iDuke's Mega out of the sky, and Vezar is right there at the fall through. This is a fight.